Welcome to the Fandom Podcast Network special presentation of Time Warp 1984 December 40th anniversary movies and pop culture. In this episode of Time Warp, of course, we'll cover all the pop culture and everything in between the movies. And this is the last month of 1984, and everything is celebrating its 40th anniversary this year in 2024. Welcome to Time Warp 1984. Of course, we are discussing December. My name is Kevin. I'll be your host. And of course, I would like to introduce my co-host here on the Fandom Podcast Network. These guys right here, they rock. Let's first of all start with the queen of movie foo, Lacee Adderhold. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Look at it. I wonder where that picture was taken. It just looks
I don't know. I don't know.
Kind of good to have you. We're going to have a fun month to talk about here. But first, we got to get in my brother from another mother, co-founder of the Fandom Podcast Network, Mr. Kyle Wagner. What's up, buddy?
Wait a minute. This isn't my interview with Michael Jackson. I stayed specifically at the Beverly Hills Hotel to interview Michael Jackson. I was going to call it Michael Jackson was sitting on top of the world, but instead now I'm just going to call it I don't know.
That was a Beverly Hills Cop shout out. Well done, Kyle. Appreciate that very, very much. All right. Here on the Fandom Podcast Network, of course, we've been having a fun year talking about Time Warp. And of course, earlier this year, we did Time Warp NFL Raider players who acted in movies and TV. Last year, we also talked about Buffy, did a retrospective there. And this year has been the year of 1984. And this whole year, we've been covering some wonderful hits, some wonderful cult classics, and some wonderful crap here on Time Warp 1984. And here we are on December. But Lacee, we always like to say if there is something you didn't get a chance to talk about, you hadn't seen it, because I know it happens a lot with us. We'll order something and then we want to watch it in time for the episode of recording, but there's a couple of movies you didn't get a chance to really kind of dive into because you're waiting for them to come in the mail.
Right.
But
yeah,
you have them now.
I do.
You got Bolero and Rhinestone. Let's get your thoughts on Bolero first.
Okay, Bolero is where a guy who really likes to watch his wife have sex with another person became a film director and just put his wife in a bunch of movies to have sex with other men. I legitimately could not. I can't think of any other reason. And she was
that's very accurate.
She was 29 and she's supposed to be playing a girl who just got out of finishing school. So the guys that she was paired up with were easily 10 years her junior. So I feel like she was yeah, that's awesome. And her husband was I want to see you with other men. So I feel like it was their own personal, I feel like they were playing out their own fetishes on screen just because that's something they could do.
I think Kyle has a comment on this.
Kevin, Lacee's description sounded like we should be doing a couch potato theater. That was the IMDb description of this movie.
For real though. I mean, it was a lot of I'm naked, but also I'm so innocent. But I'm naked, but I'm so innocent.
That is pretty accurate. Well, I'm pretty sure we'll be seeing this movie come up a little bit later. Rhinestone.
Yes.
Dolly Parton turns Sylvester Stallone into a country and music star. Your thoughts on Rhinestone?
It was really fun. It was a fun movie. It was so silly. It was so dumb. The guy who played the jerk, Ron Liebman, he played her boss that bet her that she couldn't turn this guy into a country music star or she'd have to sleep with him. And first of all, that's just so skeezy to begin with. But he's that guy who plays the skeevy guy and the skeevy club owner in every movie between 81 and 87. He's that's the guy.
Yeah.
But it was fun. And Richard Farnsworth, it was good to see him again. He passed a little while back. And but yeah, some really fun in Rhinestone, as opposed to the just so dumb Bolero. Entertaining to a point because you just sit there going, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Wait, really?
So I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Are you going to keep these in your collection?
Absolutely. 100%. I have to keep this is, first of all, Bolero is the best drinking game ever. That's just hilarious. This is a drinking game waiting to be made.
Yet you still don't have Chud. Come on.
Valero is less likely. Well, I can't. I'm not going to even make. That's going to be and Sylvester Stallone and Dolly Parton. I'm pretty sure I have everything Dolly's been in now.
Okay.
Not positive.
All right.
And Sylvester Stallone as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, appreciate the update on that. This, of course, is Time Warp 1984. Yeah, so we got a lot to get in here, but first let's take a step back in time to 1984. Let's fuel up that DeLorean with the flux capacitor, slingshot around the sun aboard a captured Klingon bird of prey. Take a step in that blue police box or phone booth. Step into that quantum leap accelerator, or my favorite, take a dip in that hot tub time machine as we travel back to 1984. We're going to remind you what's been happening in pop culture, sports, politics, television, and of course, the movies of 1984. What happened in 1984? Well, we're going to tell you. We got some world news here for you guys. Kind of put you in there. First of all, Ronald Reagan was president. Vice president was George S.W. Bush, of course. December 1st, to gather data about airplane crashes, NASA and the FAA staged a control impact demonstration. They intentionally crashed a remote-controlled Boeing 720 in the Mojave Desert in California. I would have liked to have seen that on video. I wonder if they put the black box in there too, so to see if they can try and find it. That'd be kind of fun to go out and hang out and watch that, wouldn't you? Don't you think, guys?
I don't know about hanging out.
It'd be on YouTube now if they were to do it now. It'll be all over YouTube.
Yeah,
interesting.
I would imagine it's probably in some vault somewhere. Know they recorded it. They had to record it from all different angles just to see all the specifics. Yeah. But yeah, cool.
I remember this big time. This is a big deal. It kind of put chemical, weapony, pesticide stuff in the news big time. In Bhopal, India, a chemical leak that is a pesticide plant exposes over 500,000 people to methyl isocyanate, known as the worst ever industrial disaster. Thousands are killed immediately, and tens of thousands more continue to suffer the aftermath. That was a big deal.
Yeah, that kind of triggered the whole really heavy investigations into pesticides and stuff like that.
Yeah. December 19th, Margaret Thatcher, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, signs the Sino-British Joint Declaration, an agreement to return Hong Kong back to China in 1997. Now, this was in 1984. I remember when this happened in 97. It was kind of a big deal. The whole handover there. And I think that also is important to kind of note, guys, because that had an impact on movies and how and when they were filmed and stuff like that. So that was a big deal, since there was a big UK influence in Hong Kong. So that was a big deal. Yeah. December 22nd, Bernard Goetz shoots and injures 4 muggers on the New York City subway. The incident sparks a debate on the lengths people should go in self-defense.
And it secured him a note in "We Didn't Start the Fire" by Billy Joel.
This is true. Yeah.
Yep. Bernie Goetz.
All right. Born in 1984. We got a couple of celebs here. One I knew, one I did not. LeBron James. He was born this month, back in 1984. And Jenny Shakeshaft, actress and model. Not really familiar with her stuff. I was kind of looking at some stuff.
I was going to say, I don't know who this LeBron James person is you're talking about.
You lie!
I'm concerned that might be her porn name.
I know, right? Jenny Shakeshaft.
I'm thinking she was the inventor of the shake weight.
It's just I would change my name like that would just.
Oh my god! I wish I would have noticed that before I did that. That's funny.
Imagine the high school bullying.
Hey Jenny, you want to? Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
Hey Kevin, will you engage the core?
Well played, Kyle. All right, next we have some deaths in 1984. Unfortunately. We have a couple notable ones here. Peter Lawford, English-American actor and socialite, born in 1923, passed away in December of 1984. And one of the best American action film directors, Sam Peckinpah, passed away in 1984, born in 1925. Of course, more known for like the Wild Bunch and Osterman Weekend and several others. So, yeah, definitely a legend there. Okay, we got some technology and toys that we like to kind of talk about here, guys. And the first thing we have here is Twirly Curls Barbie, manufacturer Mattel for $10.99. Twirly Curly Barbie comes with her own hairstyle, includes chair and hair accessories. We also have the Wacky Wheels, a locomotor that will drive you crazy. It walks on freaky feet, waddles on oddball tires, pops wheelies, and comes with gobs of goofy gizmos. Create numerous change around vehicles. Each one performs differently. Price $15.99. I have no memory of those. And then we also have Cabbage Patch Kids, the 3D viewer gift set, the Viewmaster. We all loved our Viewmasters there, guys. Now, I got a couple more I want to show, but I want to ask you guys, first of all, Kyle or Lacey, do you guys remember Wacky Wheels?
You know what it reminds me of is that the robot that they made and then people like beat the crap out of it in Pennsylvania or something. You remember that robot that they sent like out to walk around?
And recently or back in 84?
No, this is about 6-7 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
That robot, and it made it to like Pennsylvania or something, and then people just got mad at it because it was faulty.
It's creepy.
Beat the crap out of it. And it was like, oh.
But who had a Viewmaster? I did.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We had a Viewmaster, yeah.
Yeah.
But I remember when the 3D ones came out, how big a deal they were making of those at the time. Ooh, it's in 3D.
Yeah. Well, on the gaming side of toys here, guys, we have the Zapper, the NSC Zapper by Nintendo. This was a big deal because, of course, you had to play Duck Hunt, so you had the Zapper. Sometimes the Nintendo had the Zapper in it, and then also you had the Nintendo Versus System, a handheld video game system with black and white graphics. And this one here that I'm showing the picture of is Donkey Kong 3. I know I had the Zapper. Kyle, you had the Zapper. Lacey, did you have the Zapper too?
Yep, the one I had came with the 2600, I think.
No.
No.
2600 had no.
Yeah, you're right. The first Nintendo. What was that called?
Yeah, the NES. The NES Zapper.
The NES, yeah.
So,
yeah.
I have a quick story about the Zapper.
Do it.
Okay. Just real quick. So we all know how frustrated we get at times with Duck Hunt, and we want to shoot the dog.
Yes.
And you couldn't. I have a friend.
He kept giggling at you. He'd go.
Yeah, I know. I had a friend. We were at a high school party. It was late at night. He was tired. He was so frustrated with Duck Hunt. He was a big defensive lineman on the football team. He took the Zapper and did a Conan the Barbarian and pushed the Zapper through the Nintendo and through the cartridge.
Jeez.
Okay, that was an expensive party for him.
Yeah, little Roy. I think Roy much, but yeah. But the other thing about the Zapper is will not work on modern televisions.
Interesting.
Makes sense.
All right. So there's a lot of handheld games out there. This one specifically looks like it was only one game. It was Donkey Kong 3, which I thought was interesting. But it's a cool little handhelding. But usually you wanted to have the ones that were interchangeable with different games and such. So yeah.
Nintendo had the market cornered on these kind of little things. They had a great Donkey Kong, like it was a flip open one that was orange. That was the original Donkey Kong. But these were kind of Nintendo's early forays before they developed the Game Boy.
Yeah.
Tetris arrived and we were never the same.
Let's get into some 1984 music. All right. Now, first of all, we have some December music news here, guys. First of all, Tipper Gore, she was after everyone that said a bad word on any type of album. And I have a picture here on YouTube. And Tipper Gore is the one on the right, okay, first of all. D. Snyder, Mr. Snyder from Twisted Sister, he's over on the left. And he made a very famous appearance during this congressional meeting about profanity and music and stuff. And he was very well spoken. He blew everyone away. But Tipper Gore forms the Parents Music Resource Center, the PMRC, in response to the filth she hears on her daughter's copy of Prince's Purple Rain. So basically, that had included the little warning symbol that we all famously saw, which ensured more sales for people to buy them. Basically,
and spawned a whole series of merch. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember every boy between the ages of 14 and 17 had a shirt that said, what was it?
parental warning advisory, something like that.
Whatever. Yeah, advisory. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Tipper Gore, was Public Enemy #1 in the music industry, yet she caused record sales to increase significantly because of the explicit warning.
It's like, oh, it's got that warning. That's for me.
Right.
Right.
Wasn't she parodied by Catherine Zeta-Jones in Detroit Rock City?
Yes.
I believe so,
No, not Detroit Rock City. It was the other one.
Rock of Ages.
Rock of Ages. Yes. Rock of
Okay.
Ages. Yeah.
Catherine
Detroit Rock
Zeta-Jones-
City a little
well,
longer. Yeah.
Right, but Catherine Zeta-Jones was the one in Detroit Rock City. I don't know who played her in Rock of Ages.
Catherine Zeta-Jones was in Rock of Ages and played a
Played
Mrs.
both?
Gore type character.
Yeah.
Okay, so she's done it twice then.
I don't remember Detroit Rock City, so I'll have to trust you on that one. So yeah.
Okay.
All right, next guys, we've got December 3rd, Bob Geldof and Band-Aid released the single "Do They Know It's Christmas," which becomes the fastest selling single of all time in the UK on December 11th, and of course around the world. Big deal there, guys. A lot of people showed up for that one, and it's a Christmas go-to song. You know, when you hear that song, it's like it's Christmas time, and you know we got to help the hungry. So yeah. Now December 8th, I remember this well in hair metal history. Razzle, he's the gentleman on the left there. Nicholas Dingley, otherwise known as, of Hanoi Rocks, is killed in a car crash. Motley Crue drummer member Vince Neil was the driver of that car and was drunk at the time. And this was a big deal. Vince Neil got off pretty easy, and he admitted to that. He had to pay a fine. He did like 30 days in jail. He was remorseful about it because Razzle was a good friend of his. But you know, he feels though his celebrity did help him, unfortunately.
And that was one of the lines that Judd Nelson used in Airheads to try and get them to come on out.
Which was what?
He said, "Come on, man! Vince Neil killed a guy. He didn't, come on, let's
yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And what's interesting too, what's kind of sad was that after this happened, and he was the drummer of Hanoi Rocks. Hanoi Rocks didn't continue on, which is weird. Malcolm Monroe went solo and had his own band, and Hanoi Rocks was a very influential band for a lot of the hair metal bands in the 80s. Hanoi Rocks kind of was leading the charge, and they had a certain look and a style that influenced a lot of those huge bands that were even bigger than Hanoi Rocks, like Motley Crue, like Guns N' Roses. And it's really weird. They never got back together after the death of Razzle, which I thought was interesting. The next one we have here, guys, Cyndi Lauper. We love Cyndi Lauper here. Cyndi Lauper with the fourth single of her 1983 debut, She's So Unusual, All Through the Night, became the first woman in the 26-year history of the Billboard Hot 100 to have 4 singles from one album in the top 5. Go, Cyndi! We love it. We love our Cyndi Lauper there. She's awesome. Saw her in concert in the early 90s. Boy, she killed it. What a voice.
And what is it now? Taylor Swift just got the top 15 all at one time.
Something crazy, yeah.
Like the Eras tour or something. It was like she's got like the top 15 slots for over a year or something. I don't know.
Yeah, crazy.
I'm not the music person, so I'm probably you should check me on that.
Next, December 9th of December of 1984, the Jacksons conclude their victory tour with the last of 6 concerts at Dodger Stadium in Los Angeles. 6 sold-out concerts at Dodger Stadium. That's huge. At the end of their final show, lead singer Michael Jackson surprises not only his fans, but also his band members with the announcement that he would be permanently leaving the Jacksons, stating that this would be the last time they would all perform together. The tour, which consisted of 55 shows over 5 months, had reportedly grossed $75 million, a new record industry at that time.
Hey,
and
Kevin,
yes, Kyle.
Just how big the victory tour was, and I'm curious to see if you remember this advertisement. You remember seeing all the ads for the digital Jackson's victory tour watch that played like one of the songs? I think it was "Can You Feel It."
No, I don't remember that, Kyle. It was a watch, like a watch you wear.
Yeah, it was like one of those. You know how the digital watches were, and it would play if you hit a button. It would play the song "Can You Feel It" and have like the Jackson 5 flashing in and out on the face of the watch. I remember
I have
ads for it on WGN all the
Wow.
time.
Wow.
Oh yeah, no memory of that. I know the other Jacksons, other than Michael, would go out on tour and do their own things for a while. But yeah. So also hair metal related here, guys. This was a big deal here. December 31st, Def Leppard drummer Rick Allen loses control of his car while driving along A57 outside of Sheffield, England. As a result, he loses his arm. But did that stop him? No. He eventually rejoined Def Leppard and was able to jerry-rig his own, and he kind of became a little entrepreneur about this, and did his drum rig, to where he could do some triggers with his feet and come up with certain sounds as well. And he's been an original member with Def Leppard ever since. Of course, they did lose their guitarist, Steve, later, I think in 1989 or 90, but then was replaced. But he didn't let this tragedy stop him. He is still doing quite well, and I've seen Def Leppard a few times over the last few years, and they sound as good as ever.
Nice.
All right. We always like to mention this as well. The Dick Clark's Rockin' Eve, 1985, guys. This is a fun one here. Hosted by Priscilla Barnes from Three's Company and Adrian Zemed. Scheduled to appear Jermaine Jackson, Barry Manilow, Ronnie Millsap, Night Ranger, Scandal, and John Waite. Starts at 11:30 p.m. Brought to you by Dr. Pepper. Did you guys stay up for these? I remember at times when I would stay up for these.
Yeah. When I could, yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And of course, we like to celebrate the top songs of 1984 by the Billboard Hot 100. And guys, we are finally down to the top 8 songs of 1984. And yes,
I just want to say that it just occurred to me that because we're talking about music again, it was Lynn Shay, not Catherine Zeta-Jones, in Detroit Rock City, making fun of Tipper Gore. Okay, go.
When you say making fun of Tipper Gore, do you mean like
her performance on, like, she played an uptight mother who
gotcha? Okay,
she was head of the anti-Kiss movement, like Kiss the band.
Right. Gotcha.
And she based her portrayal on some of Tipper Gore's
yeah. Gotcha. All right, so the top 8 songs. At number 8, Owner of a Lonely Heart by Yes. Now, I got to stop there for a second, guys, because I cannot hear this song ever again because of my best friend's dad used to sing along to the song, but he would change the lyrics. So every time I hear this damn song, I don't hear Owner of a Lonely Heart. I hear Odor of a Grody Fart.
Oh, God.
Oh my gosh.
Every time I hear this damn song, I start laughing, going, thank you for ruining that, John. Rest in peace, John, by the way.
That's awesome.
Odor of a Grody Fart. At number 7, after Odor of a Grody Fart, we have Hello by Lionel Richie. At number 6, we've got Jump by Van Halen. At number 5, we have Against All Odds, of course, from the movie Against All Odds. Take a Look at Me Now, which is what I thought the name of the song was. Phil Collins. Footloose by Kenny Loggins at number 4. At number 3, Say, Say, Say by Paul McCartney and Michael Jackson. At number 2, What's Love Got to Do with It, Tina Turner. And at number 1, When Doves Cry by Prince. Those are the top 8 songs, Billboard charts for 1984. Lacey, I know music is not your strong point, but I gotta ask, I'm sure you've heard of a few of these, right?
I've heard of all of them, actually. I mean, I could probably hum almost all of them. I will say I do think that Prince, When Doves Cry, was given a little boost because it was specifically the Prince album that Tipper Gore was having a problem with, and so
yes,
he was the main the focus of her situation, and I think that is what made When Doves Cry just skyrocket on the charts.
Oh God, yeah. And it helped with Prince, the Purple Album movie as well. Purple Rain, Purple Rain.
Yeah, I met him in a car dealership once.
Did he buy a car?
No, he was mad because I wouldn't let him cut in front of me, and he asked me if I knew who he was, and I was like, "No, do you know who I am?" And I literally didn't know who he was because he was wearing like a sweatsuit. And as I walked out, the guy that was over the corner was like, "Do you know who that was?" I was like, "No, why does everybody keep asking me that?" Like, that's great. I was like, "Okay, cool. I mean, I don't care because I'm not going to let someone."
got mad at Prince for cutting in front of her. That's funny.
No, like he was behind me and he tapped on my shoulder and was like, "I need to go ahead." And I was like, "No, what? No." He was nice. I mean, he was nice. He was not rude about it. He was just like, "I'm in a hurry." I was like, "Honey, so am I." Like, what?
Kyle, I love these odd celebrity encounters that we hear from
It was
Lacee
bizarre.
stories. I love these.
There's a book in there somewhere.
It was the
Kyle, your thoughts on the top 8 here? Oh, but wait, hold on,
There's
Lacee.
some-
Wait, hold on. Lacee, of these top 8, which one's your favorite?
It's gonna be between Footloose and Jump, I think, probably.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Not Odor of a Grody Fart?
No, that's the
Okay.
one that I can't. That's the one I can't seem to. I know the name. I just can't seem to like find the hum.
Well, whenever you hear it, you're going to think of Odor of a Grody Fart. You're welcome.
But I'm much better now.
Okay.
Kyle, your thoughts on this top 8 and what is your favorite?
I mean, these are some classics here. I mean, Van Halen Jump, whether it's David Lee Roth or Sammy Hagar, is always a classic. Against All Odds is one of my favorite Phil Collins songs. I've always been a fan of that. Obviously, Footloose, Kenny Loggins dominating the 80s movie soundtrack scene. I'm a fan of Say, Say, Say. I think it's one of the better duets out there. With
Great
Michael
song.
Jackson.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson. And a great video, a very fun video. But I'm going to be honestly, Tina Turner, What's Love Got to Do with It is such a powerful song.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, When Doves Cry, I know it's a popular Prince song, but it's not near my top of favorite of Prince songs.
It's not my favorite song on the album, to be honest with you. Yeah. My 2 favorite are Jump and Footloose. Love those songs.
What's up?
And I would have to say, coming in a close third, like you mentioned, Kyle, is What's Love Got to Do with Tina Turner. Man, she had legs for days too. Gosh, and just that she was just on top of the world. You know, one of the really original awesome divas that we had at the time.
About this time, she did a concert when HBO used to air concerts. That was one of the best concerts I have ever seen.
Yeah. All right, guys, that concludes our music segment of Time Warp 1984 December. Let's get into television. All right, television shows of 1984 debuting. Now, December is not really a month where new shows debut, but I did find one, guys. I remember the show, never watched it though, and that is Crazy Like a Fox. A freewheeling private eye, his button-down lawyer son. When they're not driving each other crazy, they're driving the crooks wild. Starring John Rubinstein and Jack Warden. Anyone remember watching the show?
I do. I mean, I didn't realize until just now, but I think I do remember seeing that. But maybe like 3 times.
Right.
I don't remember making it like a weekly thing.
Yeah. What about you, Kyle? No.
Yes? I remember the advertisements, but I don't remember watching it.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm remembering Paul Reiser as the son because he used that guy. What does it say? Rubinstein. He used to do this a lot. Like he used to like shake his hands a lot, like kind of like Paul Reiser does.
Right.
But yeah, that's cool.
Well, we did have some. December was a month where a lot of shows would be ending, whether they got canceled really quickly or just long-running shows found time to, finally hang it up. And the ones that I speak of course, are ending this year. We've got the Dean Martin Celebrity Roast, which started in 1974. The new Scooby-Doo and Scrappy-Doo, which started in 1983. December 8th, Captain Kangaroo ends starting from 1955. That's the end of an era, but there was a lot of reruns after that. Kyle, it seems like it didn't last long enough. Pole Position started earlier. It only lasted 2 months?
It had 1 season basically, but I got to rewind it. We got to give Captain Kangaroo a little love here. How many of us grew up with Captain Kangaroo and Mr. Moose dropping ping pong balls
Mr. Green
over
Jeans,
again?
Right?
Mr. Green Jeans.
Yeah, but I always remember the puppet, Mr. Moose, dropping all the ping pong balls on Captain Kangaroo.
Oh, yeah. What was the moose called again?
Mr. Moose.
Mr. Moose, yeah. Also, Pryor's Place didn't last too long as well. Not surprised after this. After MASH ends, after starting in 1983. Welcome to Pooh Corner. Also starting in 1984, Edge of the Night from 1956 finally calls it quits, and Partners in Crime did not last long either. It also premiered in 1984 and ended in 1984. So, but we also like to celebrate the top rated shows of 1984. We are down to our final 2. Number 1, Dynasty, and number 2 is Dallas. Didn't watch any of these.
Oh, come on, man. Who shot JR?
Yeah.
I remember the news, and I remember
Okay,
it made big news and stuff, and I didn't care. My parents didn't watch these
Truthfully, though,
nighttime soaps.
You're looking at these covers. The two biggest stars in television in 1984 were on the cover of these: Larry Hagman and Joan Collins.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Was it Joan Collins had gotten like a fight with what's her name on?
Probably.
There's like a big.
Yeah.
There's a big like fight in a fountain or rolling, with Joan Collins and the other blonde girl that was in. I can't remember her name, but yeah. And then I remember Who Shot JR, and no, my parents weren't into the nighttime soaps, and so we didn't. We were either watching something else at that time, or most of these were on at 10 o'clock at night too, and I was in.
Yeah.
So yeah. So.
Also, I'm pretty sure that it didn't come out like 10 years later that fight was staged. It was part of
something along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like part of the marketing. They were trying to like make it like they hate each other in real life too. Ooh. Yeah.
All right, guys, this is the Fandom Podcast Network, and we are discussing the movies of 1984. All right, guys, December of 1984. But we do have some celebrity film debuts here, guys. We've got Ken Watanabe, was in MacArthur's Children. Alicia Witt was in Dune. There you go, Dune. Yep. Lacey's holding up her copy there. So we'll be talking about that shortly. Steven Weber, The Flamingo Kid. Michelle Yeoh in The Owl versus Bombo. Did you get that one, Lacey?
No.
Yeah. All right. This is of December of 1984. And the first film that we're going to talk about is Beverly Hills Cop, guys. Kyle did sneak in a quote from Beverly Hills Cop. He didn't complete it, though, but he did sneak it in earlier like that. There you go. Right. Okay, so let's show up our copy. So I actually have the DVD trilogy, but as of this morning, I actually upgraded and ordered DVD or the Blu-ray trilogy, and I also bought them all on iTunes, because if you buy the trilogy on iTunes, it is like $12.99. So
right on. I got the Blu-ray set over there. I just haven't watched it yet, so this is the one that I have right now.
Gotcha. He's been chased down through a window and arrested. Been thrown through a window and arrested. Eddie Murphy's a Detroit cop on vacation in Beverly Hills. A freewheeling Detroit cop pursues a murder investigation, finds himself dealing with a very different culture in Beverly Hills. Directed by Martin Best. Stars Eddie Murphy, Jens Reinhold, John Astin, Lisa Albacher, and of course Ronnie Cox. Kyle, give us some trivia on Beverly Hills Cop.
Well, before that though, if Kevin ends up with a banana in the tailpipe before the end of this podcast, don't look at me. Trivia: Eddie Murphy, John Ashton, and Judge Reinhold improvised most of their comic lines. Literally hundreds of takes were ruined by cast members, actors, or the director laughing during shooting. During the Super Cops monologue, Ashton is pinching his face hard and looking down in apparent frustration. He is actually laughing. Reinhold put his hand in his pocket and pinched his thigh really hard, trying to prevent himself from laughing.
I want to talk about that scene. I want to talk about that scene real quick, because that's actually one of my favorite scenes in the movie. And what's funny about that scene too is, like, I feel like that's when Detective Bogomil, Ronnie Cox, is actually really starting to like Eddie Murphy's character, because he's kind of grinning a little bit. It's such a great scene. Go ahead, Kyle.
Axel Foley's t-shirt is from Mumford, a real-life Detroit area school one of the filmmakers attended. When the film came out, the school got orders for the shirt from customers all over the world. And then originally 2 men were supposed to be working in the art gallery scenes. When the director heard Bronson Pinchot's Surge impression, he thought it was so hysterical that he scaled back the other part to give Pinchot more screen time. The second actor shows up briefly with his shirt collar open too wide, and Surge comments on it.
Surge. All right, guys. This movie came out December 5th, made $316 million. Lacey, why are you putting your thumb down? And why are you on why are you
on mute?
I didn't like 2001. I didn't like 2010. They were boring. They took too long, and nobody talked. I was done.
All right, hold on. We're not talking.
We're talking about Beverly Hills Cop.
Oh, I thought you just said the year we made contact. I thought you had already scrolled down.
No.
Sorry.
No. No, we're talking about Beverly Hills Cop.
Okay, I thought you had ended it and we're headed to the next one. That's why I was like,
No.
We almost ended this podcast prematurely, Lacey.
Well, Lacey, give me your thoughts on Beverly Hills Cop.
Eddie Murphy's awesome. Or okay, 1980s, mid 80s to like mid 90s, Eddie Murphy was awesome. Like great stuff, really fun. His comedy routines were amazing. He brought that into the acting. The acting is great. After that, I think he kind of started playing like one note. But I think that Beverly Hills Cop was really fun. And I love Bronson Pinchot. And it's really funny to see this came out in 1984, and like in comparison to his role in Bronson Pinchot's role in the Flamingo Kid, where he was just like this guy who had like 3 lines.
Yeah. Kyle, your thoughts on Beverly Hills Cop?
My favorite Eddie Murphy of all time, and in my opinion, Eddie Murphy's best movie. This movie is a classic. This is a movie you can turn into at any time and watch it. I think this is Eddie Murphy at the height of his powers. It's just so much fun. The chemistry he has with Judge Reinhold and John Ashton is absolutely phenomenal and carries over throughout all the films. Though we don't talk about Beverly Hills Cop 3, it doesn't exist. It's just such a great movie, and I really think this is the movie that really put Eddie Murphy, superstardom leading man, on the map. And I will just say this, Kevin, and I think you'll agree with me. Lisa Eilbacher, highly underrated.
Really cutie. She's pretty. Yeah, I like her too. She's funny in this. I love the chemistry she has with Axel in this. Lacey.
Judge Reinhold is one of the nicest, sweetest, funniest men on the planet. He does the convention circuit now, and he loves doing the close talker. He loves like doing the close talker
from Seinfeld. Yeah,
close talker, like that's his favorite photo op to do.
That's funny
because he has you have like 30 seconds, and he's just so sweet. He was one of the nicest celebs that I've met, in the convention circuit.
Yeah. I agree, Kyle. This is a classic film, and Eddie Murphy shot to stardom in this. Of course, 48 Hours, of course, kind of really started it, but this is the movie that just cemented him as a movie star. And as much as I love this movie, I have a hot take though. I actually like Beverly Hills Cop 2 better. I love the Tony Scott style of shooting, and I had more action in it too, and I love the villains in it. But I just love watching those back to back. Third one is not good at all. But I did like the new one that came out, Axel F. I thought that was kind of a good sequel. They kind of made fun of the third one in a way, which I thought was interesting. But yeah.
After the podcast, you and I are going to the strip club with Gerald Ford, right?
All right. Lacey, you tipped your hand on this, and I'm kind of with you here. 2010, the year we made contact, came out December 7th of 84, made over $41 million. And it's a sequel to 2001, A Space Odyssey, and it came out in 68. A joint American-Soviet expedition is sent to Jupiter to discover what went wrong with USS Discovery against a backdrop of growing global tensions. Amongst the mysteries the expedition must explain are the appearance of a huge black monolith in Jupiter's orbit and the fate of HAL, H-A-L, the Discovery AI computer, based on the novel by Arthur C. Clarke, directed by Peter Hyams. So I am a fan of him as a director. I prefer his other films, though. Stars Roy Scheider, John Lithgow, and Helen Mirren. Kyle, give us some trivia, please.
During the planning stages of this movie, an email connection was provided for writer, producer, and director Peter Hyams in Hollywood and Sir Arthur C. Clarke in Colombo, Sri Lanka, so that Hyams could regularly consult with Clarke on how to adapt the novel to the movie screen. In 1983-84, such an email correspondence was practically unheard of outside of the academic community, and it was certainly the first for the movie world. Edited highlights of the emails were published as a book, The Odyssey File, in 1984. This is pretty welcome. You've got mail.
Yeah, okay, so hold on. I'm like kind of glancing at the rest of this trivia, and I don't care about it. So I don't want to waste your time, Kyle. Lacey, you tipped your hat. What's your thoughts on 2010?
The only thing that I made contact with in this movie was the back of my eyelids. I was like, that was like, oh, come on. I mean, ugh, really? And
You know, it's
and I like all the actors. Like all the actors were great. It's just the story was not. It's just not my Jimmy Jam. Like that's not. Bleh, nope. Sorry, I hate. 2001 was awful. It was awful and sad and boring and nothing happened. And bad and sad and boring and nothing happened. It was just awful.
Kyle, do you have thoughts on 2010?
In 2001, there were only 22 minutes of speaking in a 2-hour and 37-minute movie. Shut up. Absolutely not. Oh my goodness. What are you talking about? Literally.
Kyle, can you top that, please?
Actually, yeah, 9 out of 10 doctors is prescribed 2010 for people who have sleeping disorders.
Right?
Oh my God. Okay, so I remember watching 2001 a long time ago, and I don't remember ever seeing 2010 because I didn't like 2001.
Mm-hmm.
But I found this DVD 2-pack, and they were both sealed, and these are those cardboard ones too, and they had that extra long, that extra weird like security wrap around it, and you would try to peel it, and you couldn't peel it in one shot. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they both had them on there, and I'm like, okay, well, at least vaguely remember 2001. I remember it was boring as shit, and I don't understand why people like what it is, but whatever. It had weird long space scenes and monkeys, and I'm like, okay, whatever. Stanley Kubrick masterpiece. It is not. And then I'm like, okay, Roy Scheider. I'm like, okay, I guess he really did not want to do another Jaws movie, so he's like, he did 2010. Oh my God, boring.
How much did those cost you?
I think it wasn't a lot of money, thank God. I think it was like $10 or $15.
Okay, that's an expensive pair of coasters you got there.
Yeah, I know, right? Jesus Christ.
Wait, guys. We spent more time talking about this movie than it does to take me to fall asleep when I try to put this movie on.
Okay, so wait, hold on. You know how they have intimacy coordinators nowadays?
Yep.
Back then, they should have had boring coordinators. I mean, they should have people come and go, your movie's boring. You got to do something. This sucks. I don't understand how this gets past certain things and go, yeah, this is going to be a hit. People are going to enjoy this. I realize visually 2001 is really cool. I get it. But you're right, Lacey. It's boring. It's sad. It's depressing. And 2010 didn't help.
The only thing good to come out of 2001 and 2010, those two movies, is the opening sequence of Barbie.
I think the only good thing actually that came out of it, that's a good one, by the way, Lacey, was probably the music. 2010 or 2001 music is iconic, you know. But I can't watch. I'm never gonna watch these movies again. They suck. I'm sorry. I just don't care. Anyway.
Okay.
All right. Next one is a buddy flick here. It takes place in the 30s gangster era starring Clint Eastwood and Burt Reynolds. This is called City Heat. Made just over $38 million in its original theatric run. The poster says, when a hotshot cop and a wise guy detective get together, the heat is on. Kansas City in 1930s, private investigator Mike Murphy's, Burt Reynolds' partner, is brutally murdered, and he tries to blackmail a mobster with his secret accounting records. When a rival gang boss goes after the missing records, ex-policeman Murphy is forced to team up again with his ex-partner, Lieutenant Spear, played by Clint Eastwood. Even though they can't stand each other, to fight both gangs before Kansas City erupts into a mob war. Directed by Richard Benjamin. Writers were Blake Edwards and Joseph Stinson. Stars Clint Eastwood, Burt Reynolds, Jane Alexander, Madeline Kahn, Rip Torn, Irene Cara, and Richard Roundtree. Kyle, give us some trivia on City Heat.
Burt Reynolds suffered a serious accident and had his jaw broken when he was hit in the face with a metal chair while filming a fight scene on this movie. Reynolds was restricted to a liquid diet and lost over 30 pounds by the time this movie wrapped. The accident had dire consequences for Reynolds' next movie project, Stick. In that movie, Reynolds looked underweight, weak, and thin, and this condition was because of the accident. Apparently, the accident led to Reynolds becoming addicted to painkillers. Also, when this movie was made and released, it stars Burt Reynolds and Clint Eastwood. They were two of the biggest box office stars in the world. This movie is notable for their star teaming here. Eastwood only agreed to do this movie under the agreement that he would be paid more than Reynolds and that his name would appear first in the credits. kind of get the feeling maybe didn't like each other. Just saying. Burt Reynolds had initially suggested Richard Kiel, his longtime friend and co-star from The Longest Yard and Cannonball Run 2, for the part of the villainous slug Troy Rocker, but Clint Eastwood refused because he had the intention of using Kiel in his next movie, Pale Rider. And according to Burt Reynolds in his memoir, Clint Eastwood actually orchestrated the removal of Blake Edwards by goading him into quitting in favor of Richard Benjamin, a less intense and less expensive director.
Interesting. So I ended up finding this on a Clint Eastwood 3-pack triple feature here with Honky Tonk Man, Pink Cadillac, and City Heat. And I been waiting to kind of watch the City Heat movie because I thought it would be kind of interesting and stuff. But I want to get your guys' thoughts on this. Lacey, have you seen City Heat?
I've seen it. It was a long time ago. I ordered it. It is on the way. It's supposed to be here today before 10 o'clock, and I just got a notification like 2 days ago that it was going to be here like on the 29th. So I was like, really? I ordered it over a month ago. I'm super bummed.
Really? That sucks. Yeah. Right. Kyle, have you seen City Heat?
It's been a long time. From what I remember of it, it didn't live up to the hype of who was in it at the time for me. It kind of felt like, oh, we're just going to throw these together. What I remember what's crazy about it is the surrounding cast is so incredible. You've got Madeline Kahn, Rip Torn, Irene Cara, and of course, the man who's the coolest man in the film, Richard Roundtree. If Richard Roundtree is in the movie, he's going to be the coolest man in the movie. But it felt like a disappointing team up of two of Hollywood's biggest stars at the time.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there, Kyle. I was a little disappointed with this movie, to be honest with you. Before I get into my feel about that, what's interesting, there's a scene and there's like a shootout in this. There's several shootouts in this film, but it takes I guarantee you, because after watching Johnny Dangerously, there's the theater that he shows up at. I think it's filmed at the same backlot theater. Maybe they crossed, like they use the same crew or lighting crew, or whatever, but it was like the same scene. It was the same backlot because they have a New York style backlot for each of those movies. They have one there at Universal Studios. But yeah, I was a little disappointed in this. I didn't really think the chemistry between the two is good. And Burt Reynolds is charming. He does his Burt Reynolds things, but Clint Eastwood totally mailed this one in big time. He just kind of played Dirty Harry with a 30s outfit, but it wasn't as entertaining, he didn't have as many lines, and he didn't speak a lot, and I honestly found the supporting cast more entertaining than the top two stars, especially Richard Roundtree. He was good in this. Madeline Kahn was good at it as well. I did like the setting. I like the costumes and stuff like that, but I did find myself a little disappointed. Lacey, I'd be curious to find out on the next show what you think. So let us know.
Definitely. When we hit the 90s, I will have watched it by then. We can do a little chit chat.
All right. Next, we have The Cotton Club. Cotton Club came out December 14th, made a little over $25 million in its theatrical run. Cotton Club was a famous Harlem nightclub. This is a story of the people who visited the club as well as the people who ran it. And the film is generously peppered with jazz music that made the Cotton Club so renowned in the 1920s and 30s. Meet the jazz musicians, dancers, owners, and guests like Gangsta Dutch Schultz and the Cotton Club in 1920 to 1930s Harlem. Director Francis Ford Coppola. Writers William Kennedy, Francis Ford Coppola, and Mario Puzo. Stars Richard Gere, Gregory Hines, Diane Lane, Bob Hoskins, Nicolas Cage, and James Remar as well as in this. Kyle, give us some trivia, please, on The Cotton Club.
When Francis Ford Coppola called up Bob Hoskins to offer him a part, the actor didn't believe it was really him. Coppola introduced himself, to which Hoskins replied, "Yeah, and this is Henry the fucking Eighth," and hung up. That sounds like Bob Hoskins. The relationship between the characters played by Gregory Hines and Maurice Hines was partly based on the brothers' real lives. And in real life, Richard Gere is an accomplished cornet player and performed his own solos in this movie. And finally, Lawrence Fishburne's character, Bumpy Rhodes, was based on real-life Harlem gangster Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson. Fishburne would play Bumpy in Hoodlum in 1997, 13 years later. And Hoodlum is a very underrated film.
So, Kyle, give me your thoughts on The Cotton Club.
It was one of those movies I didn't watch for a long time because it just wasn't of my interest. And then as I got older, I watched it. it's a good film. Is it one I'm going to revisit a bunch? No, because it's just not necessarily my cup of tea. I like the music, but that time frame and some of the stuff in it, it was a one and done for me. But I can understand why people have a soft spot for the Cotton Club. I know for a lot of people it was a big deal for a while.
Lacey, have you seen the Cotton Club?
You know, I actually chose not. Like, I don't know that I recognized it at the time or whatever, but it just seems to me when I looked at it to watch a movie about a Harlem nightclub, which is about like the jazz and gangsters and stuff like that, and to see that the director is white, at least two of the writers are white. Of the top 6 stars, 5 of them are white. It just seemed like it was an awful pale portrayal of something that should have probably been cast better. And I feel like if it was made today, it would probably be cast better. I don't know, and again, I don't know anything about this movie. I haven't seen it, but that's the vibe I got from it. I feel like if you even just look at the poster, this is about a Harlem nightclub. You got Richard Gere, Diane Lane. There are 4 white people on the cover. And this is about like the history of jazz. I feel like there were people who should have gotten those roles.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that a lot of white musicians that played in like black clubs and vice versa as well.
Sure,
it covers and talks about all that. It had a young Jennifer Grey in it as well. Was interesting, and oh gosh, what's his name? We just talked about him. God, what's his name?
What was he?
Sophia Coppola was in this as well. But what's interesting was seeing Nicolas Cage as like the young brother who turns into a gangster. And he gets his up and comings in it as well. Kyle, help me out. Guy that was in Highlander 3, the villain. I'm drawing his blank.
Mario Van Peebles.
Yeah, he has a small role in this as a dancer, one of the black dancers in this.
Right on.
And there's a lot of familiar faces that were in this. And there was a good combination of both black and white, entertainers in this and stuff. I love Gregory Hines a lot in this, and he does his performance in there. It was nice to see Richard Gere actually performing in this. But one of the things that kept coming to two things that came to mind is Diane Lane was really young in this, and she tends to play in these roles. James Remar was one of the gangsters in this film, and he was really good in it. My only problem in this is that it was boring. There was too much dancing and too much music in this. I wanted more character development and drama in between the characters. There's just the dance sequences and tap dancing and stuff like that just went on way too long in this. And I was getting bored with this film, to be perfectly honest, in it, which took away from, which could have been some good performances. Fred Gwynn too. He plays one of the gangster heavies in this, and it was an interesting new role for me to see Fred Gwynn in. But I was going through other trivia. Apparently, Francis Coppola did this film to basically pay for the last film that he did that was a failure. That I think we covered. I just can't remember many of it the previous year. But it's not a movie that I would return to. Bob Hoskins in it as well. To me, kind of boring. And I'm not a big jazz fan as well, so that doesn't help its cause in my mind as well. So, there you go. All right. Next, we have Dune, 1984 Dune. Yes, that Dune. Lacey, I think you held a Blu-ray copy of it as well. I just actually picked this up recently to attempt to watch it again. I'll get into that in a minute. Dune made over 27 million in its original theatrical run. Poster's pretty wordy. In a world where sandworms 1,000 feet long guard creation's greatest treasure, the spice that prolongs life and enables the mind to fold space and slow time, where a prophecy will be fulfilled and a young leader with incredible powers will emerge to command an army of 5 million warriors in the final battle for control of the universe and its source of ultimate power, the planet called Dune. Of course, directed by David Lynch, writers Frank Herbert, David Lynch, stars Kyle MacLachlan, Virginia Madsen, Francesca Ennis, Sting, Patrick Stewart. Kyle, what trivia do you have for us?
Writer and director David Lynch said he considers this movie the only real failure of his career. To this day, he refuses to talk about the production in great detail and has refused numerous offers to work on a special edition DVD. Lynch had always claimed that revisiting the movie would be too painful of an experience to endure. Many fans hoped he would eventually come around, and in an article published in Esquire during 2022, he did indeed say that a director's cut could happen. Fayed Ratha, who was originally to have stepped out of the steam bath nude, Sting had agreed to shoot the scene nude, but the studio panicked and told the costume designers that they had to put something on him. The skimpy wing G-string he wore was made almost at the very last minute before the scene was set to film. And God bless Patrick Stewart. Sir Patrick Stewart was at the time completely unfamiliar about who Sting was as a musician. When meeting him on set, he asked if he was a solo artist, to which Sting replied he was in a band called The Police. Stewart, totally unaware, thought Sting played in a police band.
Played the police. That's funny. All right, I'm going to start here, guys. So I believe I walked out of this movie. This is one of the first movies I remember walking out of. Boring. I knew nothing about the book. Never read the book. Never read. Don't care. But you know, when you come across friends of Dune and Frank Herbert's work and stuff, this movie is very decisive. I know there was an extended version. I tried watching that. Didn't care. It's just, I even got the laser disc and watched that. Didn't care. But Dune did capture me with the sci-fi miniseries. Really enjoyed that interpretation of Dune and felt that was done well. And I'm also a fan of the Denis Villeneuve films that recently come out, of the first and the second one. I did enjoy those. I thought those were good. I tried watching the new TV series on HBO Max. I watched the first episode, didn't understand a goddamn thing about it. Might try to give it another shot. Maybe it'll open up. But what's funny is I did buy this Blu-ray of Dune thinking, okay, I'm going to give it another shot. I actually have it here playing while we're recording this. I don't know if I'm going to keep the Blu-ray or not, but there's just something about, I don't know if David Lynch was the right person to tackle this or not. It's just paced well. And I've heard from Dune fanatics that it's not the best interpretation of it, but it's kind of become it's so bad it's good scenario for some people. Some people think it's the greatest thing ever. Some people think, no, thank God they able to do better versions of it in the recent incarnations. Kyle, what is your thoughts on Dune 84?
Oh, what a tangled web Dune 84 is. The history of getting Dune made is actually quite fascinating, and there's a great documentary out there called Jodorowsky's Dune, which was the first attempt to get a Dune movie made.
What's it called again, Kyle? You cut out there.
Jodorowsky's Dune.
Jodorowsky's Dune.
And Leonard Nimoy played a part in that documentary. It was about the first attempt to get a Dune movie made and how it went just totally off the rail.
Like in the 70s or something like that?
Yeah, like late like mid 70s or so. Dune is such a intense novel, and the problem is there's just no way to do it justice in one film. Hence why Denis Villeneuve has basically 3 films covering Dune. This 84 version by David Lynch is bizarre. It's out there. It will use out so much of the book. I mean, it's basically like at best, the Cliff Notes version of the book, and it still is confusing and leaves stuff out there. Until I watched the extended edition, did I truly understand half the stuff that was going on in this film. Virginia Madsen, who should get so much more time in this movie, doesn't. And Lynch's decisions were just way out in left field with how he handled some of the characters and some of the things he did, and he focused on a lot of the real bizarre elements of Dune, to where if you've watched the modern versions of Denis Villeneuve's interpretation of Dune, you see the differences quite drastically. And I remember at the time, everybody was making a big deal about it because Dune was one of those movies that was like, nobody can make Dune. No, how are they going to do this? And some people thought he pulled it off. Some people think it's still one of the worst movies of all time. It falls in the middle for me. I think you said it right, Kevin. For a lot of people, it's so bad it's good. And then I'm with you. The Sci-Fi Channel miniseries until Denis Villeneuve's Dune came out was by far the best interpretation of Dune ever done.
Agreed. Yeah. Lacey, what about you? What are your thoughts on Dune 1984? You have the Blu-ray there. You've been showing it, so I'm guessing you watched it.
I did for the first time 3 days ago.
And
Oh my God, where to start? Okay, first of all, David Lynch and Paul Verhoeven need to join a club that is just, we like to make alien vaginas. Like, that's all that is. Okay. I'm not super sure what is going on, but wow, that's a lot. And also, like, the weird nipple clamp thing and the what, I don't understand. That's a whole situation. The cat milk, like, what? No. Weird that, like, one house had pugs and the other house had cats. Like, what's that going on? I don't understand why you would milk a cat to save a person's. What happened in that movie? David Lynch, I don't understand anything. Nothing. I have deliberately, like, avoided David Lynch and his films since I saw Mulholland Drive. And I didn't understand what was going on there with, like, the cowboy and the little person and, like, the guy at the dumpster and, like, the weird person who, like, died and then masturbated. And I don't understand how that happened. Whatever. So I just don't do David Lynch. But because this was a podcast that we were going to cover it, and Dune is like a huge thing and people either love it or hate it. I don't even hate it. I just don't, like, what happened? What just happened? It's like 2 hours and 7 minutes that I'm just not even a complaint that I'm not going to get it back. I just don't know what the hell just happened. I have no through line to it. If I had not already seen the Chalamet, Momoa, Isaac films, I would have no clue what is happening in this.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And when it comes to the director, David Lynch, I'm pretty much gonna be sure not to watch it because I'm not a fan of Blue Velvet. I just not a fan of his style. And what was it? Was it Crash that he did?
No.
Is that what?
Crash.
Was that Crash that he did? Or was that the Dead Ringers guy? I can't remember. Anyway, just not a fan of it. Fan of this Dune. I try to come back around on it, but you know, now that the Denis Villeneuve films have done it much better and you know gotten more into it, it's and also I personally I'd rather go back and revisit the sci-fi series as well because I thought those were done better. So yeah.
Well, of course, David Lynch also did Twin Peaks, which is insane in its own right.
Yeah,
I guess that's his crowning achievement because Twin Peaks was good, but I've never gone back to rewatch it though because it's a tough watch. It really is.
Seasons and a movie to find out who killed Laura Palmer, and then you realize that nobody cares. I don't. Yeah.
Okay, let's get into the next film here. This is one I've been waiting. I've never seen it before, and I've been waiting until this podcast to finally come around to seeing it, and that is George Orwell's 1984. Made a little over $8.5 million in its theatrical run. Posters are not very pleasant. In a totalitarian future society, a man whose daily work is rewriting history tries to rebel by falling in love. Directed by Michael Radford, stars John Hurt, Richard Burton, and Susanna Hamilton. Kyle, give us some trivia, please, on 1984.
In poor health during most of the filming, Richard Burton had great difficulty remembering his lines and sometimes had to film a scene dozens of times before he could get it right. The scene in O'Brien's apartment where he is talking to Winston about Goldstein's book took a record of 41 takes to say his speech without fumbling his lines. This was Richard Burton's final movie before his death on August 5th, 1984, at the age of 58.
Wow.
Director Michael Radford and cinematographer Roger Deakins originally wanted to shoot this movie in black and white, but the financial backers of the production, Virgin Films, opposed this idea. Instead, Deakins used a film processing technique called bleach bypass to create the distinctive washed-out look of the movie's color visuals. And finally, the movie was filmed during April, May, and June of 1984. The closing credits declare that this film was photographed in and around London during the period of April through June 1984, the exact time and setting imagined by the author George Orwell. Now, Kevin, before we go any further, I just must say, December 1984 was maybe the most boring science fiction month of movies ever. There is some serious sleep-inducing going on here, or mind trip films.
Yeah, that's well said. Anyone want to go first?
Again, this is much like 2010. Okay. I've seen it once. I never need to see this again in my life. I did the book in school. It was, I've had my fill of 1984 as far as George Orwell goes.
Lacey, have you seen 1984?
I feel like this is a tantamount to self-inflicted torture. I had to read the book in high school. While I do appreciate the concept that government is conceivably a bad thing if it's done improperly, hello, 2024. I do think that I just I don't care. I don't care. It's just it was
Kevin,
just
let me put it this way. The only good thing to come out of Orwell's 1984 was one heck of a commercial for Apple computers.
fair.
Interesting, yeah.
I never
So,
watched the movie. I was so like meh with the book. I was just like, you know what? I just don't care.
you know, I find dystopian future stuff interesting at times. Sometimes it's done really well, sometimes it's not. This one was boring as hell, depressing as hell, and just not a fun watch at all. I never read the book, never read. Well, I don't care. And I ended up finding it on DVD last year, going, "Oh, we're going to be talking about 1984. I'll save it and watch it till then." And I had such a troubled time getting through this thing, man. It
Did you have
was.
a good nap? Did you have a good nap 3 or 4 times in a row trying to
I
watch it?
started
Massive
seriously.
depression. Massive depression.
I started nodding off, and I forced myself to watch this movie. It is also streaming on either Pluto or something, and so like I tried watching it during my break at lunch, and then I realized I didn't want to waste my lunch break watching this movie. And so I finally got through it, and it was just depressing. But what's interesting though is that Kyle, and I think it was brought up when we were talking about this podcast on the Union Federation podcast. We did a fun limited series talking about the Star Trek Next Generation 2-part episodes. One of them is this one right here, Chain of Command. And there's a famous scene in where Captain Picard gets captured by the Cardassians and is tortured, and the Cardassian is trying to force him to tell him how many lights are behind him. And there was like 4 lights, and he says, no, that's not how many lights there are, and he would torture them. So we know it was mentioned in the trivia that there's a famous scene in this movie where he's holding up 4 fingers, and he's asking, how many fingers do you see? And he keeps telling him how many he sees, and he's trying to, oh, that's not how many you're supposed to see, and then he tortures him and blah, blah, blah. This movie's depressing and it sucks, and I will never watch it again. So there you go.
Lots of coasters for this month.
So far, so good. Okay, so I do have some good news. I have a film here that was a pleasant surprise, and it kind of came about in a weird way. I'll be honest with you. And this was not originally on the docket for December of 1984, but there's this little film that called Heavenly Bodies. What, Lacey? What? What do you say? You have the Blu-ray there? Are you serious?
Yeah.
Well, so do I.
I know. I'm so excited. Yay.
Okay, so here's an interesting story about this one, okay? So my wife, this movie came up because of a conversation I was having with my wife. She came across it on Instagram or something like that and she loves dancing movies. She loves movies about dancing. She danced in her past. So like Flashdance, all these films, she loves dancing movies. Or movies that have great dancing montages in them. One of her favorites is Girls Just Want to Have Fun. She loves the dancing montage in that as well.
Nice.
She's like, well, have you heard of Heavenly Bodies? I've never seen it. Like, no, I haven't either. When did it come out? She's like, came out in 84. Aren't you guys doing Time Warp 1984? So I'm like, no. And this was like months ago, right? And so I couldn't find it streaming anywhere. Nowhere. Couldn't find a VHS copy of it. Couldn't find a DVD or anything like that, right? At the time. Okay. And so I found some YouTube videos of the trailer or some extended scenes, blah, blah, blah. So I found this place on the internet that will burn you horrible copies of movies and not even put something special into the DVD or the Blu-ray or DVD, but do like these cheesy copies of those little thin cases. I'm not even going to show it to you right now because I don't want to get this person in trouble. But I wanted to see this damn movie. It was the only way I did. So I ordered it from this guy, and I did order a couple other movies that were hard to find. I couldn't find. And I put it in the player. It wouldn't play. And I put it in my computer player. It wouldn't play, right? So then I come across this random thing on YouTube. The actress to Heavenly Bodies. Let me go ahead and put the poster up here.
Cynthia Dale.
Cynthia Dale, had recently done a convention appearance doing a panel talking about this movie this year. I'm like, okay. So I do another search on the internet. In October of this year, they released the Blu-ray, the 40th anniversary Blu-ray and DVD. So I ended up buying the Blu-ray to watch this. Now, before I go on, Lacey, have you actually seen the movie?
Yes, I have. And I want you to know that when you told me that you had gotten that DVD or Blu-ray 4 days ago, I was like, huh. I looked for it when I found out that we were going to be doing 1984 and I didn't find it. So why don't I go back and check? So I got that based off the fact that you told me it was available. So you definitely got to it first. I don't want to be like, no, I just had it in my collection. No. I saw that you had it and I was like, oh, good, it's available. So I immediately went and grabbed one. So that being said, you do win the you got it first award for this. Like I know there's
I'm impressed that you still got a copy of it.
But yeah.
Kyle's looking at us going, nerds.
No. What I want to say is this is a point where we break in this podcast to say this podcast is supported by the Physical Media Society. And if you hear typing during this podcast, it means that Lacey and Kevin are searching Amazon and the internet where they can find the Blu-rays or DVDs of said films we are discussing.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so first of all, I would like to say that did you look at the booklet?
Yes.
Okay, the booklet is kind of cool because the way it looks like a channel guide, and it's got like the little date up in the corner. It looks like a little
it's kind of like a TV guide or a channel guide you would see in a hotel room or something.
Yeah, like a little TV guide, which is kind of fun. It's got some little interviews and stuff in it, which is kind of fun. It's like a little liner notes, and you don't get a lot of liner notes in Blu-rays. Yeah. But did you get a chance to listen to the commentary?
No, but I watched the interview that is on the Blu-ray with the star Cynthia Dale.
Yes. Okay. So the interview's great. She's very sweet. She's very cute. She's like, she's like, look, I'm not Jennifer Beals. I didn't think this was going to do this kind of like, I don't even know where this came from. She's adorable. But the commentary is done by a film like historian, a woman, I can't remember her name. And then the guy that does it is this like super sassy, fierce bitch cult movie aficionado, and I love him, and he's so hilarious.
It's commentary by Millie DeCicero and Jeffrey Mixed.
Okay, Jeffrey, he is so funny, and he's just like, how did I miss this? This is awful. I can't stand it. It's gonna be amazing. Like he's just so funny. I've only made it through because of time. I literally was watching it right before I came into the podcast, so I got about 20 minutes into the commentary, and he is absolutely. You have to listen to this commentary. He's so funny.
Okay.
And they try to find line between like taking a respectful view and just bashing. Like there's kind of like it's kind of back and forth. So I thought it was a fun little movie. I didn't think that it was. I didn't think that it's something that maybe if you've got a choice between this and 5 other dance movies, this is probably not going to be the first one you watch.
Right.
But I don't think it was bad. I think that it had some fun moments, and I think that the dancing was pretty good. I will say that there was really one thing that kind of I kept noticing is that when she did her high kick, she could only high kick with the right foot, with the right leg. She never did a high kick with her left. She kept doing it, but it was the weirdest thing. I don't know I don't know if that was something the director decided because it was like that side or something.
Right.
But she never did a high kick with her left leg. And that was just odd to me. And I don't know enough about dance to know if that's something that, The
IMDb plot says, the small dancer-sized studio fights for its existence against an unscrupulous owner of a rival club. The conflict boils down to a dance marathon to settle the score. And as you guys know, Jazzercise was very popular at this time. Jane Fonda's workout video was very popular at this time. So these dance classes and courses were very popular in malls and around the world and stuff. But Kyle, before I give my thoughts, I was wondering if you could go ahead and hit the trivia we have for this.
When Samantha, played by Cynthia Dale, is outside the movie theater handing out flyers, the 3 movie posters behind her are Never Cry Wolf, Star 80, and Flashdance. That is an eclectic group of movies, I must say. The movie has often been considered to be a knockoff of Flashdance. Adding to this, the film actually features a movie poster of Flashdance outside the theater. Moreover, the connection is much stronger as slogans and taglines for the film also exalted that it was from the creators of Flashdance. In Italy, the movie was even named under the similar title of Scratch Dance.
Real quick, I want to pause right there, Kyle, because the Blu-ray has a reversible cover with the Scratch Dance alternate cover right there. So there you go. Continue, Kyle.
There we go. And finally, the movie was co-produced by Playboy Enterprises Uncredited, shares its name with an early 1960s Russ Meyer film called Heavenly Bodies. Ironically, one of the other production companies, RLS Entertainment, also the same year were responsible for an adult erotic thriller called Bedroom Eyes.
So Heavenly Bodies is actually the name of the Dancer Size studio. So that's where the name of the movie comes from there. Cynthia Dale, adorable in this film. I got to say, she looked great. And, you know, when she gets the role, but she's also competing to host this Jazzercise TV series as well. And of course, there's some competition with another girl and stuff happens. But I thought it was actually a fun movie. I enjoyed the dancing in this as well. I enjoyed her mostly, and I really enjoyed watching recent interviews with the actress talking about it, because she is an accomplished dancer and singer, and so a lot of the stuff, most of the dancing is done by her. Lacee.
I will say that it was more jazzercise than dance. The whole competition thing, it was like jumping jacks and windmills. It was very strange. But I will say that the visuals of this movie left a little bit to be desired, because I don't know whether they chose dancers that they didn't think had pretty enough faces, or if they had actresses that didn't know how to dance. But there was you could very much tell that for the dance sequences, they would chop the women off here at the.
There's some very, very unattractive people, is what you're saying, right?
Well, they would chop them at the chest, but they would only show to the ankles, so you didn't even see what the dance was. And I was like, so basically, you just want to see butts. Like, that's all we're looking at here. Like, we're just seeing like hips and waist, and that's all it was. And it was like a significant.
So Lacee,
movie.
I thought about something that you said when I was watching this movie.
Okay.
The Christy McNichol film. What was the one last month that we talked about?
Just Like You Are, Just As You Are.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I remembered what you said about this film, and I felt the same thing about this one. The 80s called and wants it back. This movie was so 80s with the music, and because there wasn't like it was a lot of that kind of like not famous music songs in it, but you can tell people that they hired to, do something or other. But I did enjoy it. It was a lot of fun. My wife was looking forward to watching it. So yeah,
lots of shirtless dudes with like rope style headbands and two short shorts. And also the one love scene is like this, like the woman is like this, she's like this just tiny pale, like glistening with like sweat or whatever. And then the dude is like legitimately furry.
He's a hairy man. Yeah.
Sweet gentleman, right? The way that they shot it though was weird, because the camera, the light bounced incorrectly off of the two, because it's the same reason you can't put two skin tones in a film in a single shot together without using the appropriate lighting. And I guess they just didn't do that back then, but it looked really weird.
Well, I did appreciate that there was some nudity in this, a little bit, not too much, not too like in your face, but I did appreciate there's a little bit of that.
It's not like the rest of the costumes left anything to be curious about.
It's true.
Yeah.
All right, guys. The next film. Oh, by the way, Kyle, have you seen Heavenly Bodies?
I have not seen Heavenly Bodies.
Do you want to see it? I don't know.
It might be worth checking out at some point.
I got a bootleg copy you might be able to play.
It's like Dolly Parton said in Rhinestone to Sylvester Stallone. She said, as soon as you stop wearing pants I can see your pulse through, we'll talk about it.
Right. All right.
Wow.
All right. The next film, never seen it, probably never will, but I do have to mention it because it gets some Oscar love in this. The Passage to India drama came out a little over $27 million in its original theatrical run. Cultural mistrust and false accusations doom a friendship in British colonial India between an Indian doctor and Englishwoman engaged to marry a city magistrate and an English educator. Directed by David Lean, stars Judy Davis, Victor Banerjee, Peggy Ashcroft, and Sir Alec Guinness. Kyle, I believe there's some trivia here. Try not to fall asleep while reading it.
The relationship between writer and director Sir David Lean and Sir Alec Guinness deteriorated during the making of the movie. The final straw came for Guinness when he found out that a large chunk of his scenes had been left off the cutting room floor by Lean. Neither man never met or spoke to each other again. Writer and director Sir David Lean had frequently on-set clashes with Judy Davis, who accused him of having lost his touch and not having directed for 14 years. Sir Alec Guinness spent several weeks learning an intricate Hindu dance for a scene that ended up on the cutting room floor. This movie just sounds like a nightmare.
It seems like David Lean sucks. I don't know what the deal is here. I've never seen it, never will. I don't want to spend too much time on this, guys, but I had to mention it. Anyone seen this?
I have to say I haven't seen it, but I was interested in it because David Lean, he directed Lawrence of Arabia, if I'm not mistaken, and that's like a huge, like picturesque kind of situation. So, or I don't know, I was interested in it, but now like kind of listening to the maybe not.
Well, you're right. He did direct. Oh God, this is why. Okay, so yeah. Okay, I may have misspoke when he says that he sucks, but maybe he sucks as a director to get along with. Lawrence Arabia, Dr. Zhivago, The Bridge Over the River Kwai, and Great Expectations. So obviously he's a good director, but he might be hard to get along with, apparently.
Oh, then it just shows he had a previous relationship with Alec Guinness too, because they were on Bridge of the River Kwai together, which is a phenomenal film.
Yeah.
Anyway, unless you guys have anything important and short to say about Passage of India, moving along. All right, moving along. Next film, a little more entertaining. Runaway, made over almost $7 million in original theatrical run. This is the poster. It is the future. Machines intend to do our work are being programmed to turn against us. Someone must stop the madman who started it all. Tom Selleck, Cynthia Rhodes, Gene Simmons, Kirstie Alley. Music by Jerry Goldsmith. Runaway. In the near future, police officer specializes in malfunctioning robots. When a robot turns out to have been programmed to kill, he begins to uncover a homicidal plot to create killer robots, and his son becomes a target. Directed by Michael Crichton. Yes, that Michael Crichton. Stars Tom Selleck, Cynthia Rhodes, Gene Simmons, and Kirstie Alley. Kyle, give us some trivia on Runaway.
The on-camera relationship between Charles Luther, played by Gene Simmons, and Jack Ramsey, Tom Selleck, is one of intense emotion. While we're playing a scene, I hate his guts, Simmons said of Selleck, and added, I really want to kill him. It's funny, when we're doing this stuff, it all wells up. I can't concentrate on giving somebody a certain look for an extended period of time without my temperature rising and my emotions starting to boil. Sometimes I would make up stuff about Tom, little things that would irritate me, and afterwards I would go up to Tom and say, look, I don't know if I was too... And he'd rep and say, no, don't explain anything. You're doing great. In his book, Gene Simmons' book, Sex, Money, and Kiss, said that director Michael Crichton's casting of him was based primarily on an audition where Crichton asked Simmons to stare at him for about a minute without making any facial expressions. Apparently, Crichton decided that Simmons looked menacing enough and cast him for the role of Luther. The film accurately predicts domestic robots, video mail, social media, the internet, voice-activated computers, biometric security, retinal identification, camera drones, tablet PCs, wireless headsets, and that police officers use semi-automatic pistols as sidearms in 1984. Most police officers use revolvers.
I believe I covered this on Lethal Mullet, on an episode with Adam O'Brien's Lethal Mullet. This is a fun sci-fi guilty pleasure movie for me. I love this film. Gene Simmons plays a good bad guy. He is, of course, a dick. But there's a famous scene towards the end of this when there's a chase scene going on with Gene Simmons' character and Tom Selleck. There's a famous scene of a restaurant where there is a waterfall coming over the restaurant. It's man-made building there, and this film was shot entirely in Vancouver. And when I did a Vancouver tour to do the Highlander locations with our good friend Andy Sloan for Blood of Kings, he took me to that restaurant because there was a scene in Highlander TV series that filmed there as well. So it's a very cool thing. And what was great was that waterfall over the window was actually working when I went there. For the longest time, it wasn't. But anyway, I love this movie. I love Cynthia Rhodes in this too. She's cute, and it's kind of there's some creepy robot spiders in this. There's a great chase scene with robot like remote control cars trying to blow up their car on the road and stuff. Kyle, your thoughts on Runaway?
I think it's a solid little 1980 science fiction film. If I remember correctly, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, the problem why Runaway didn't really hit it big is because a lot of people consider it a poor man's Blade Runner.
Yes, to a certain degree. Yeah. And it's interesting too, is because the poster's a little misleading. That outfit that he wears, he doesn't wear that all the time, and those guns that he has, that's not his main gun and stuff like that. But yeah, it was a little misleading, and I could definitely see that.
But I think for Tom Selleck, this is one of those sliding door things. What if he had played Indiana Jones? Maybe this movie becomes bigger because he had played Indiana Jones, or does he do this movie if he played Indiana Jones? That's kind of one of the things with this movie that's always been a little fascinating.
Yeah. Lacey, have you seen Runaway?
I think I have. Is this the one where there's like the little mechanical spiders?
Yes. Yep.
I've seen it. Yay.
Do you remember if you liked it?
No, I thought it was the one. I thought that was the one. I can't say good or bad. I will say unmemorable, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm in my 50s, and like ladies, we all know that our brains just go at 47. Gotcha. So
yeah. Fun sci-fi film. I've liked it more and more since I've revisited. It's been a long time since I'd seen it. Since I did that podcast with Adam O'Brien for the Lethal Mullet. It was a lot of fun.
I just saw on the poster that there's the little spider thingy.
Yes, the spider robots. Yes. Yep.
I'm such an idiot. I just wasn't looking at the poster like close enough. I will watch this before the next one, so that I will have a comment.
Great, awesome.
Okay.
Next film, guys, Starman. And it's a original theatrical run, made a little over $28 million. He traveled from a galaxy far beyond our own. He is 100,000 years ahead of us. He has powers we cannot comprehend, and he is about to face the one force in the universe that he has yet to conquer: love. John Carpenter's Starman stars Jeff Bridges, Karen Allen, directed, of course, by John Carpenter. An alien takes the form of a young Wisconsin's widow's husband to make her drive him to his departure point in Arizona. Distrustful government agents, along with more ambivalent scientists, give pursuit in hopes of intercepting them. Charles Martin Smith also co-stars in this. Kyle, give us some trivia on Starman.
The script was being developed at Columbia at the time, same time as another script about an alien visitation. The studio did not want to make both, so the head of the studio had to choose which film to make. He decided to make this one and let the other script go to a rival studio. I don't think he had a job after this, because the other script was E.T. the Extraterrestrial, which came out in 1982. Oops! After E.T. became such a huge hit, apparently Starman sat on the shelf for almost 3 years before the Columbia Pictures studio agreed to release it. The only John Carpenter film to have an Academy Award nomination. Jeff Bridges got nominated for Best Actor. Bridges studied ornithology and the behavior of birds to prepare for his role as an alien in human form for this movie. Bridges particularly used the sudden jerky head movements, among other nuances and mannerisms, of birds for his Starman character. Bridges figured that the alien would not have human characteristics, and being encased in a human body would act with a base primitive animal instincts. And the film's two leads, Karen Allen and Jeff Bridges, sang a duet in a rendition of All I Have to Do Is Dream, which was included on the movie soundtrack. The song is heard in the film in an abridged acoustic version. The song was also recorded and filmed as a music video, which is available on the DVD.
Got the DVD right here, and you have the Blu-ray, Lacey. There you go. Let me ask you first, Lacey, your thoughts on Starman.
I love Starman. I really did. I think that we still, my family still uses the line, red means stop, green means go, yellow means drive very fast. Really super cool. Like it's one line and it was just sort of dropped and it wasn't, meant to, it was just, it's one of those ones that you kind of pick up and you just never let go. And that's one of the things that this movie taught me was that yellow means drive very fast.
Yes.
It's a cool movie. It's Richard. No. Gosh, what's his name? Charles Martin Smith.
Yep.
I love him. He's fantastic, and he's gone on to direct and do all these things. He directed.
He was also one of the Untouchables too.
Yeah, but he also directed a bunch of Buffy. Like he was.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I dug this. I think it's when it comes to an alien film, this is a little bit more like laid back, a little bit more quiet. There's a movie that just came out recently called, I want to say it's called I'm All Right Now, or I'm Okay. I was looking for it, trying to figure out what it was called. But it's the same situation where a woman loses her business partner, and an alien comes back in the form of her business partner for like a shortened period of time to learn about Earth. It was kind of a cool little nod to Starman.
I was always surprised. I keep forgetting this is a Carpenter film, and it seemed like a departure for him. Kyle, your thoughts on Starman?
There's so many things about this movie that are just, it's a weird film in the aspect of, like you said, Kevin, it's a John Carpenter film. You're like, what? Wait a minute, time out, rewind. This is a John Carpenter film. Jeff Bridges gets nominated for Best Actor from this film. It's not exact. It's got its cult status, but it's not a huge science fiction hit. And when you add this in with the other movies that we've talked about that have come out this month, this is maybe one of the most eclectic months of science fiction in the history of science fiction.
Yeah.
Starman definitely has its cult following. I've seen it. Bridges' performance is very good in it. Karen Allen is good in it. Is it a movie that I'm going to rewatch a bunch of times? No, but it is. I think it is definitely a solid piece of science fiction movie. And I think if you're a fan of John Carpenter, it's a movie you need to see something different from him in his library. And I think that kind of makes it an interesting piece of Hollywood history.
You know what? Oh, go ahead, Lacey.
I was going to say, I found the thing. It's called I'm Totally Fine is the name of the nod, the homage to Starman.
You know what's interesting is that it's been a while since I watched this, and I didn't own it before I found it on DVD recently, and I watched the DVD. What I find interesting, though, first of all, if you're a fan of Karen Allen, you need to see this film. I actually think she's better in this film, acting-wise, than Jeff is. Jeff Bridges is a great actress, but I think Karen Allen is just great in this. She's adorable. Next to Raiders of the Lost Ark, this is my favorite Karen Allen film. She's really, really good in this. And you really buy the fact that she's a grieving widow, and it's just weird that he takes over the body of her deceased husband. But it kind of becomes a chase for a while because they're trying to find them and stuff. If I had one complaint about this movie, is it just ends too abruptly. It's just I didn't like the way they ended. I would have liked it just a little bit more than the way it ended. But I think I find it a charming film, and to me, Karen Allen's the one that steals this movie for me. So yeah. But guys, I don't know if you know this or not. There was a Starman TV series that was kind of a sequel to this. So the TV series came out, only lasted 22 episodes, one season, came out in 86, ended in 87. And the alien returns to Earth years after an earlier visit to reunite with his Earth son, and together they search for the alien's human wife. So I guess the Karen Allen character is missing. Stars Robert Hayes and John Mason, also Michael Cavanaugh. And what's interesting about this too is I was looking at the interesting co-stars. Aaron Gray is in this for a couple episodes. Never saw it. Don't remember anything about it. Do you guys remember the TV series at all?
Oh, yes. Very much so.
Kyle, what are your thoughts on the Starman TV series?
There are people who think the Starman TV series might actually be better than the film.
Really?
It's got an interesting cult following to it. It only lasted 22 episodes, but a lot of people really liked it. And I know that it's one of those ones that forever you can find at conventions and old bootleg quote unquote DVDs and stuff like that. But that show had a pretty strong cult following for a good while.
Lacey, you remember it?
I do. I feel like I'm not sure, but for some reason I want to say that this and the Greatest American Hero were like back to back, or something on the schedule. We dug this. I remember we would watch this as a family. And just a little note: the kid is C.B. Barnes, who was the voice of Prince Eric in The Little Mermaid.
Ah, okay.
Little Disney, and he also played, I think, Greg Brady or Peter Brady in the very Brady movie, the joke ones that came out a little bit later with Christine Taylor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never saw it, but I'm a fan of Robert Hayes, so that's interesting. Okay. All right, guys. The next film that we got here is Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo. Made a little over $15 million. Was released December 19th. And the first Breakin' was released earlier this year because we discussed it. And I got the Breakin' DVD, got Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo. We also talked about. There you go.
Okay, I got different ones. That's cool.
Yeah, you have a better cover than mine. I like your cover. And then, of course, we had Beat Street, which also had breakdancing. And then the classic Body Rock with Lorenzo Lamas also had breakdancing. This 84 was the year of breakdancing movies. But, of course, the more popular ones was Breakin' and Breakin' 2. Kyle, also Canon Films.
I just need to get this out of my system real quick, Kevin. Shabadoo!
Shabadoo! Yes. Okay, so guys, a developer tries to bulldoze a community recreation center. The local breakdancers try to stop it. Directed by Sam Furstenberg, worked with Canon a lot. Stars Lucinda Dickey, Adolfo Quiñones, Michael Chambers, and of course Ice-T, who I'm going to talk about in a moment here. But Kyle, give us some trivia on Electric Boogaloo, Breakin' 2.
The phrase Electric Boogaloo has become a common unofficial subtitle for any unnecessary sequel. I mean, this came out the same year. That should tell you something. To film a dance scene with dancers breakdancing on the walls, the makers borrowed the rotating room from A Nightmare on Elm Street, which almost killed most of the cast, if you ever hear about this. To show thanks, a picture of Freddy's glove is hanging on the wall. Inspired by real-life events, the Radiotron, a youth center near MacArthur Park, Los Angeles, faced demolition. Youth director Carmelo Alvarez rallied the youth and community to march to Los Angeles City Hall to try and save the Radiotron. I need a Radiotron in my life right now. The sequel was greenlit and rushed into production less than a year after the original film. Christopher McDonald was offered the chance to reprise his role of James from Breakin' 1984. He turned it down. I wonder why.
So, is Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo the better movie or just the better name?
It's the better name. Let's be honest here.
Some people think it's the better movie. I don't know.
I feel like it fleshed out a couple of the characters, but in doing that, it became difficult to put the dancing back into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it had a more specific, more significant plot line, which then made the music and the dancing feel almost like pushed.
So my favorite part of the film is the scene of the rotating room, and that is done by the character Turbo, and it's pretty cool the way it's done. We've seen that before in other films, but he does it pretty well with his dancing and stuff. But what I was thinking about when I was watching this, Kyle, was when Lucinda Dickey came back to do reshoots for Ninja 3 Domination. Mm-hmm. She had cut her hair to do the sequel for this film. So she was wearing a really bad wig to come back and do the reshoots for that when they reshot the ending of that film. But when it comes to breakdancing, Breakin' and Breakin' 2 are the most iconic films in this, Kyle.
Kevin, there's only one thing to say about this. There ain't no stopping us. No one does it better.
What I do like about this film, and I do want to touch on this because I found it funny, when I was rewatching this film, because I hadn't seen it in years until I recently bought the DVD, was I remember that Ice-T was in this film, and I believe he was in the first one as well. But what the outfit that Ice-T was wearing reminded me of something. I'm going to show it here on YouTube real quick. So Ice-T's character does go by, I think the character with what was it? Radio, what was it called? Radiotron. I think his character actually goes by that. But I'm going to show a picture here of Ice-T on the left here. And Vince Neil, the singer of Motley Crue. Do you guys notice anything about their outfits? Looks a little similar, doesn't it?
Who did it first?
Are you sure they didn't pull these outfits from a extra set of clothing from the Road Warrior?
Well, to answer your question, Lacey, Motley Crue did it first because this is early Shout at the Devil Motley Crue right here from 81 to 82. This film, of course, came out and filmed in 84 and came out in 84. So I don't know if Vince, I don't know where he got his outfit from, but he wore that for a while. That was one of his iconic looks. And Ice-T was like, yeah, man, I like that look. I'm going to borrow that. And if you're listening to this podcast, I'm sorry. Check out the video. You'll see what I mean. Kyle.
And just for all you listeners out there, Kevin did request that he is officially changing his name from Kevin Raider Nerd Reitzel to Kevin Ozone Reitzel.
Ozone Reitzel, yes. Yes. Don't know if it has the same ring. I'll have to think about that, but yes. The next film, guys, I tried to watch it recently. I remember seeing it somewhere. I did enjoy it. It's been a while since I watched it. It is The Flamingo Kid. Lacey's got the DVD there. Made a little over $23 million in its theatrical run. A recent high school graduate, unsure of his future, gets a summer job at the Flamingo Beach Club and meets the charismatic Phil Brody. Directed by Gary Marshall. Written by Neil Marshall, Gary Marshall, and Bo Goldman. Stars Matt Dillon, Hector Elizondo, Molly McCarthy, Martha Gaiman, and Richard Crenna. Kyle, give us some trivia on The Flamingo Kid.
This was the very first film to be given a PG-13 rating, but it was shelved for 5 months, making Red Dawn the first film to be released with a PG-13 rating. The original lead was offered to Matthew Broderick. When he dropped out, the character was rewritten for Matt Dillon. Marissa Tomei's first screen credit and contains her first spoken line of dialogue.
So, Lacey, you've seen this more recently than I have. I remember liking this film. I've seen films that are like this, where you get the kid going to the club and he becomes popular. I think there was some poker involved or something like that. I don't remember all the details about it, so I'm going to have you shed some light on this and what your thoughts are on this film.
This was a very clear social commentary. This was about people who had money, people who wanted money, people who didn't have money.
Right.
And people
the have and have nots.
Yeah, but it was a lot more of like, are the people who have happy versus are the people who have not satisfied with what they have? The character of Hector Elizondo's character he's a very proud man who's got a good job. He's got a solid job and he's a plumber. And that's not an embarrassment for him. Like, that is something that is it's a good job. And he wants his kid to go to college and work in an office job so he can have a better life than him, sort of thing. And Matt Dillon kind of stumbles into a shortcut, which ends up being a little bit on the like rich and flashy side of things, which is a lot of flash but no substance. And so there's a lot of information about, it's kind of a class struggle, class warfare kind of social commentary, which is really interesting, being as it was set in the 1950s, but it was filmed in 1984. We had Reaganomics coming up. We had all these things. Like, there was a lot of conversation, and this would have been a really interesting paper to write for like a film class about, the socioeconomic.
Gotcha.
Whatever. Yeah.
Kyle, your thoughts on Flamingo Kid? Have you seen it?
I've seen it. It's been a good while. One of my issues with this film, and it's not that it's a bad film, but it's kind of a thing I have with Matt Dillon, especially a lot of stuff earlier in his career. He always felt like he was 10 years older than he was always being portrayed as. And it's just how he carried himself, the look he had. And sometimes it really would throw me out of a movie. It worked for him in The Outsiders, but like in this and a few other things, it just didn't quite fit right. This is a fun movie. I've seen it. It's not something I'm going to make an effort to go out and revisit again. But I know it's kind of one of those in the 80s films that when people talk about the 80s, it kind of has a spot in there it's carved out within the 80s culture discussion when you talk about Matt Dillon in one of his most famous films.
Yeah.
Okay. I still want to see. I want to kind of revisit because I remember Richard Crenna was in that as well, and I like him. So yeah. All right, guys. So the next movie we're going to talk about, I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I do want to kind of use it as a promo for what we just recorded and get people to listen to that instead. And that is Johnny Dangerously, a comedy that came out and made just over $17 million in its original theatrical run. Stars Michael Keaton, Joe Piscopo, Mary Lou Henner, Maureen Stapleton, Peter Boyle, Griffin Dunn, Glynis O'Connor, Dom DeLuise, Richard Dimitri, Dit Buckus, and Danny DeVito. Organized crime has never been so disorganized. The IMDb short synopsis says, set in the 1930s, an honest, good-hearted man is forced to turn to a life of crime to finance his neurotic mother's skyrocketing medical bills, and directed by Amy Heckerling. Now, the reason why we're not going to talk a lot about it right now, we're both holding up our DVD copies here. There you go. Lacey's got hers. Is that we just recorded a Couch Potato Theater on this with Lacey and, of course, our good friend Jennifer, who's a huge fan of this. And we had a lot of fun talking about this. We did some fun trivia on it as well. And it's going to be released shortly here on the Fandom Podcast Network for Couch Potato Theater. But Kyle, you were not able to join us for that. So I did want to get your thoughts quickly on Johnny Dangerously.
My feeling on Johnny Dangerously is this: it's a great film, but I have one thing that sums it all up. Let Michael Keaton cook. Because when you let Michael Keaton cook, wonderful things happen. And I mean, this is one of those movies that I think a lot of people kind of missed it the first time around and have been rediscovering it over the last decade or so. It's fun. It's an amazing cast. It's just great. And like I said, it's Michael Keaton going full on out, and there's nothing better than that. So listen to the CPT on this. They did a phenomenal job, and I love this movie. And like I said, Michael Keaton is Michael Keaton. This is prime Michael Keaton here for the 80s.
Yeah. So make sure you check it out. We'll save the trivia for that as well. We have a lot more trivia to go with that, and we covered it well. So that is Johnny Dangerously. All right, the next movie we have on the docket here is Micki and Maude, romantic comedy made just over $26 million in its original theatrical run. The poster says, Columbia Pictures cordially invites you to a new comedy from the director and star who brought you 10. Micki was the only woman he ever wanted to marry until he met Maude. So he did what any honorable man would do. He married both, starring Dudley Moore, Amy Irving, and Anne Reinking. Micki and Maude, directed by Blake Edwards. Kyle, you want to hit us with some trivia there?
Sure. Dudley Moore recommended Amy Irving for the part of Maude and got her. According to Barbara Paskin's biography, Dudley Moore, the Melancholy Clown, which came out in 2000, Moore was a staunch admirer of the beautiful actress with the Renaissance face, and had she not been married at the time to Steven Spielberg, he would have pursued her into a romance. This was the movie that director Blake Edwards made after he departed the production on City Heat in 1984, where Edwards had been the original writer and director of the project. Edwards stepped aside, or allegedly was sacked as director after creative differences with star Clint Eastwood. Gee,
I think we just talked about that.
Exactly. Deja here. Many of the professional wrestling characters are portrayed by real professional wrestlers. Some appeared in the credits under their real names rather than their wrestling monk years. So.
All right. I've not seen this film. I probably never will. I've mentioned this in the past, guys. I'm not a huge Dudley Moore fan, guys. Anyone seen this film?
I'm going Lacey.
Lacey, your thoughts on Micki and Maude?
Yes. If Scooby-Doo was a human, that's what Dudley Moore was in this movie. Like, there were so many times where, like, there's one point where they're both giving birth. Like, not only are they both pregnant at the same time, and you see him, they do these split screens, and like they flop back and forth to where he'll spend like X amount of time with one and X amount of time with the other. Like, he marries them basically at the same time. He gets them pregnant at the same time. And then they're in the hospital giving birth at the same time. And it's literally like, you know, the hallway scene where Scooby-Doo, and then they go back and forth from not like,
right.
That's what it felt like. And it really is a fun movie, even if you're not like the biggest Dudley Moore fan. It's a super cute flick. It is
How is Amy Irving in this? I did have a question about that.
Great. She's great. It is supremely outdated. There's a lot of conversation that could not be stated today in a film. Like
Right.
it's a little bit sexist. We'll just say that. I mean, the man marries two women and gets away with it for a significant chunk of the film.
Okay.
But it's super cute.
Kyle, have you seen this movie?
I have not seen this movie. I'm kind of like you when it comes to Dudley Moore. So yeah, I don't know if I'll ever see it, but Amy Irving's cute.
when I found out we were doing this, I was like, oh wow, I haven't thought about that in so long, and I've tried everywhere. I could not find it anywhere. I think like 34 minutes of it is streaming on YouTube, but you can't find part 2, 3, and 4. So
I did try to search for it and I couldn't find it. Kyle?
Yeah.
Didn't Bill Paxton do a series on HBO that was a spin-off of this movie, or am I thinking so?
Yeah, I see where you went with that. Yes.
Big love. Yeah. Big love to Big Love.
All right. Yeah, big love. All right, guys. The last film that we're going to cover here in December of 1984 is Protocol, comedy that made over $26 million in its theatrical run. The poster says there's something funny going on in Washington. Goldie's about to become a diplomat. A woman, Goldie Hawn, saves the life of Amir of Otar, played by Richard Romanus, in Washington. The U.S. needs to convince the visiting Amir Kahad of Othar to allow an American military base in his strategic realm. Clueless nightclub waitress Sunny Ann Davis accidentally spots and stops a terrorist shooting at the president and his royal guest. Her naive comments charm the press, so the State Department recruits her for its protocol. She falls in love with the charming Middle East desk chief Michael Ransom, who resigns rather than help trick her into the contact mission to Othar, where the Emir's plan with her unexpectedly stirs a revolution. Directed by Herbert Ross, stars Goldie Hawn, Chris Sarandon, and of course Richard Romanus. Kyle, give us some trivia on Protocol.
So the film was inspired by classic Hollywood films such as those directed by Frank Capra, particularly Mr. Smith Goes to Washington in 1939. This film has often been given unofficial titles like Goldie Hawn Goes to Washington. The picture is considered a politics version of Goldie Hawn's earlier Private Benjamin. The story writers on Protocol actually wrote Private Benjamin, and Goldie Hawn's character finally admits to being 35. The star was actually 39 when this film was made.
Okay, Kyle, have you seen this film? Your thoughts?
I have actually not seen this film. So
okay, all right. Lacey, have you seen this film?
I have super fun things to say about this movie. Okay, first of all, this taught me what an emu was. Second of all,
wait, this movie taught you what?
What an emu is.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I was like 11, right? So I'm looking at that. I'm thinking it's an ostrich. No, it was an emu. So I will say that I love the fact that they took her and her. She's so good at playing these like ditzy roles. But when the State Department approaches her and says, "Look, we want to get you to help us do this thing," right? They kind of recruit her into a CIA-esque kind of situation, and they give her a bunch of paperwork to read because they think they're gonna bog her down in paperwork so that she just shuts up and stays out of the way and just does as she's told. But it turns out that she reads all the paperwork and she reads all the rules and she starts correcting them on things like talking about one.
That was funny. I do remember that scene. Yeah.
Right. Where she's like, did you know that I can't cross my legs in front of the African diplomat from such and such because the sole of your foot is considered to be, it's like she was like, right.
She's a lot smarter than she let on. Yeah.
Right. And so it took that ditzy blonde that she plays in so many movies, and it gave her agency and it gave her intelligence. And I really liked that. Also, this is one of the few times in my film collection that two movies from one person that are not in a series are next to each other, because Private Benjamin comes right before this in my collection.
Because it's right next to Protocol and the Peas.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I had never seen this movie before. I ended up picking this up on DVD somewhere. And I remember because it has a price tag for $3 on it right there. If you look at the DVD. And I'm like, oh, wait, this is 1984 film. I got to wait till December to watch it. Okay. All right. So I was fine with that. I put it away and watched it. I like Chris Sarandon. I've become a big fan of Chris Sarandon. I mostly know him from Princess Bride, but every time I see him in something, I like him, and I thought he was charming in this. It wasn't as good as I was hoping it would be, but I thought that Goldie Hawn was funny in this. I actually kind of would have liked to have seen a sequel with her in this more, because this, like the scenes that you put out, like she read all the fine print and everything, and she learns about the culture. I thought that was kind of cool. But it didn't flow as well as I was hoping to feel. But Goldie Hawn, though, I'll watch her in anything. I just adore her.
Yeah.
I think she's great in this. And I thought it was a cute film. I feel like, though, like it's like that all there is that DVD. I don't think there's Blu-ray.
Yeah, I looked to see if there was an upgrade for it, and there's not.
Yeah, it's one of those films of hers that has fallen underneath the radar and hasn't gotten a lot of replay. And obviously you'll get like Wildcats and Private Benjamin, and of course Overboard, one of my favorites.
Yes.
And there was that one earlier this year, the World War II movie she did with her husband as well.
Swing Shift.
Swing Shift, yeah.
Yes.
Another one that was very hard to find. So the reasons for that, I don't know why they're trying to hide Goldie Hawn films, but they're some of those early ones are hard to find. But I do recommend it. It is a cute film. So
Chris Sarandon, one of the scariest vampires.
Yes, this is true.
He's
Fright Night.
He's got the scary vampire thing going.
Yeah, Fright Night. Yeah, my wife loves that movie.
Yep.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and wrap things up. Or we got another segment for you, though, guys. Hold on. Oops, hold on. So as we wrap up 1984 and the year that was in the movies of 1984, we did want to let you guys know the top grossing movies of 1984. And one of them we spoke of in December here. At number 10, Splash came in just over $69 million. Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, came in at number 9 with over $76 million. At number 8, Romancing the Stone, just over $76 million too, just beat out Star Trek 3. And number 7, Footloose, a little over $80 million. At number 6, Police Academy, $81 million. The Karate Kid, a little over $90 million. Gremlins, $153 million. I like how it from 5 to 4, it jumps up a lot. And number 3, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, $179 million. And the one that we did speak in this month, Beverly Hills Cop, came in at number 2 at $224 million. And at number 1, not a big surprise, Ghostbusters came in at $229 million. Kyle, what are your thoughts on the top 10 grossing films of 1984?
This top 10 might be the most telltale movies of the 80s top 10. This might be like if you were going to take 10 films from the 80s and just say, you have to watch, these are the top 10 films of 1984. These represent the early 1980s.
Yeah.
These are the films to watch. I mean, it's a powerhouse group. I mean,
what do you think, Lacey?
I agree. I think that it's a good kind of collection. You've got a little bit of musical, you've got a little bit of action adventure, you got a couple of mild horror, not big horror. You got
some sci-fi in there too.
You got some sci-fi, you got some cops, you got a mermaid, you got some karate, like you got a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
I mean that's a solid. I mean, right there, that's a 10. I'd say that's a solid weekend binge right there. That's a good binge.
It is, and it was also an iconic summer for movies as well.
And I'll say that out of the 4 years that I've worked with you guys doing these, 81, 2, 3, and 4, this is the only top 10 where I would actually watch all 10 of those movies.
Nice.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys. Now, normally we would wrap things up, but we have one more important category to discuss. We always discuss the award ceremonies for the 1984 films. And we're going to talk about the 57th Annual Academy Awards. And that covered the 1984 Oscar winners. And we'll go ahead and just start. We're just going to start with the acting categories and the movies that won. But I did want to mention a little background here. The 57th Academy Awards were presented on March 25th, 1985 at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion in Los Angeles and was hosted by Jack Lemmon. The ceremony marked the first time that multiple Black nominees would win an Oscar, when Prince and Stevie Wonder won for their respective work on Purple Rain and The Woman in Red. Additionally, it was the only time that all 5 nominees in Best Original Song topped the Billboard 100 chart. While presenting the Best Picture award, Laurence Olivier forgot to list the nominees and simply tore open the envelope to declare Amadeus. Upon accepting the award on the film's behalf, producer Saul Zaentz had the presence of mind to mention the other picture nominees during his speech to make up for Olivier's flub. How do you flub that? The best actor of all time, apparently, Kyle?
Yeah, but that's, it's no different than a couple years ago when Moonlight, La La Land. But, in this case, can you blame him? Because Amadeus just kind of swept the Academy Awards.
Yeah, it's like Amadeus again. All right.
That song Amadeus. That's what this is based. That song is based on this night.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, it was a good night, first of all, for James Stewart. He, for his 50 years of memorable performances, he got the honorary Academy Award for his high ideals, both on and off screen, with the respect and affection of his colleagues. The Best Picture, of course, did go to Amadeus. Other nominees were The Killing Fields, A Passage to India, Places in the Heart, and A Soldier's Story. All movies, in my opinion, that are boring and unwatchable. My opinion, of course. Best Director, of course, was Milos Forman for Amadeus. We also got nods to Woody Allen for Broadway, Danny Rose, Roland Joffe for The Killing Fields, David Lean for A Passage to India, and Robert Benton for Places in the Heart. Best Actor, we had F. Murray Abraham, who won for Amadeus, of course. Jeff Bridges was nominated for Starman, we just talked about. Albert Finney for Under the Volcano, Tom Hulse, Amadeus, and Sam Waterston for The Killing Fields. And for Best Actress, Sally Field, Places in the Heart. She won for her role in that. Judy Davis was nominated for Passage to India. Jessica Lange nominated for Country. Vanessa Redgrave was also nominated for The Bostonians. And Sissy Spacek was nominated for The River. Is this a famous one where Sally Field goes, "You guys, you really, really like me"?
That's the picture you have, yeah.
You like me. You really like me.
She had won one earlier in 1976 or something like that. So, yeah. Supporting roles here, guys. Winner was Hang S. Noor for The Killing Fields. Other nominees were for Adolph Caesar for A Soldier's Story, John Malkovich for Places in the Heart, Pat Morita for The Karate Kid, Ralph Richardson for Greystoke. There you go. And then for Best Supporting Actress, winner was Peggy Ashcroft for A Passage to India. Other nominees were Glenn Close for The Natural, Lindsay Krause for Places in the Heart, Christine Lottie for Swing Shift, Geraldine Page as the Pope of Greenwich Village. I forgot that Christine Lottie was nominated for Swing Shift. And so, first of all, before we go on to the next thing here, guys, what are your thoughts on these Academy Awards? Kyle?
This is one of those years where it was the Dramatic Artist Academy Awards, and it was we were in a run where it was one movie tended to dominate the Academy Awards every year. It felt like this run lasted for a good while, and Amadeus was the film. Amadeus dominated the Academy Awards this year. But you look at the films that are nominated in the major categories, and the actors and actresses, they're great, but they're not films that, especially at our age, when these movies came out, we were interested in. Let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these are films we either came to appreciate later in life or still just like, yeah, okay, move on.
Yeah, it looks like Amadeus got like 8 awards that year. So yeah
8 out of 26, I think.
Yeah, Lacey, your thoughts on the Academy Awards for '84?
This is before the Academy Award people realized that they could, be interested in anything that wasn't, desperate or angry or terrifying or dramatic. Everything this year really was very dramatic. But Amadeus, I really enjoyed.
It's interesting too, and I want to ask you guys about this. I didn't get into watching the Academy Awards on a regular basis this early. I want to say it was more maybe the late 80s, maybe 86, possibly this is when I first started watching them every single year. And then they started having Academy Award parties and stuff like that. Do you guys remember watching the awards this early, or did you wait till later where it kind of became an annual thing for you, Kyle?
I think it was a little bit later. I mean, I remember this particular year because Amadeus dominated and it was kind of all over the place. But it was probably like I would say 87, 88 before it was like when Billy Crystal started kind of
Right.
and stuff
Yeah.
like that, and it became. I think that's about really when it became too, where the host was the reason why you watched the Academy Awards, not necessarily to see who the movie was. I think that's when the shift kind of happened in the late 80s.
Right.
The host became the most important part of the Academy Awards.
What say you, Lacey?
I mean, when I saw The Fox and the Hound when I was 6, I literally didn't open up my candy or drink my drink. I just sat there like, you know. So I have said since I was 6 years old that I wanted to get into the film industry. Like I wanted to make movies. Like that was my thing. So I remember watching the Academy Awards like back from when I like knee high to a grasshopper, as they say in the South.
I assume your parents were watching them too, of course.
Yeah. So but I don't know that they would have watched them had I not been interested in movies as I was.
Yeah, I don't remember my parents watching them every year. I when I moved out of the house is when I started watching them by myself, obviously religiously. So kind of curious about that. So the next category awards group we always love to visit, and that of course is the Golden Raspberry Awards. This was the 5th annual Golden Raspberry Awards held in early 1985. And I want to say, Lacey, a couple of movies that you talked about earlier, I think made it in the category here.
Oh, yes.
And the worst picture was Bolero. It won, and I believe was one of the ones that got the most nominations and wins. Other nominees for worst picture by the Razzies were Cannonball Run 2, Rhinestone, which you have there in your hand as well, Sheena, how dare they? And Where the Boys Are, 1984. Then we get to the worst director, and apparently it's the director that likes to watch his wife naked, run around naked. That is John Derek for Bolero. Other directors that were nominated for worst director was Bob Clark for Rhinestone, Brian De Palma for Body Double. Shame! That's a great movie. John Gillerman for Sheena. Okay, I won't argue that one. Hal Needham for Cannonball Run 2. Yeah, he mailed that one in.
Yeah, no. How dare anybody speak bad of Hal Needham?
I know, right? Worst actor. Sylvester Stallone. Rhinestone. Jerry Lewis was also nominated for Slapstick of Another Kind. Lorenzo Lamas was nominated for Body Rock. Oh, come on. Peter O'Toole in Supergirl. Okay. Burt Reynolds in Cannonball Run 2 and in City Heat. He got the double nod there. He kind of mailed those in. I guess I'll be honest with you there. Worst actress. Not a big surprise here. Bo Derek for Bolero. Faye Dunaway got a nod for Supergirl. Shirley MacLaine got a nod for Cannonball Run 2. Tanya Roberts got a nod for Sheena. And Brooke Shields in Sahara as Dale. Now, this is where things get a little interesting here. For worst supporting actor, Brooke Shields wins for With a Mustache in Sahara as Dale when she pretends to be a man. Nominated for worst supporting actress for the Razzies is Robbie Benson in Harry and Son, Sammy Davis Jr. in Cannonball Run 2, George Kennedy in Bolero, and Rod Lehman in Rhinestone as Freddie Ugo. Was Rod Lehman, was that the guy that was the creepy like club owner?
Yeah.
That who it was? Okay.
All right. Rod Lehman.
Yeah. Next we have worst supporting actress was Lynn Holly Johnson in Where the Boys Are as Laurie. Other nominated ones for worst actress was Susan Anton in Cannonball Run 2, Mary Lou Henner in Cannonball Run 2. Thank God that wasn't Johnny Dangerously. Livia Diabo in Bolero and Conan the Destroyer. She got the double nod. And Diane Lane in The Cotton Club and Streets of Fire. She got the double nod as well. Now, they always like to have worst new star guys. And what we have for worst new star is Olivia Diabo in Bolero and Conan the Destroyer. I think I have a picture.
It didn't really hurt Olivia Diabo's career, though.
Did not.
It did. I mean, you know.
Well,
Also,
let's be honest.
also,
When you're that beautiful, it's not going to hurt your career, probably, and especially in the '80s.
others that were nominated as worst new star was Michelle Johnson in Blame It on Rio, Apollonia in Purple Rain, Andrea Ochapatinti, I guess, as Bolero, and Russell Todd in Where the Boys Are 84. Any thoughts on the Golden Raspberry Awards, Lacey?
Andrea Occupinti, right? As Angel. That was the guy that
In
that
Bolero.
was
Bolero.
Bolero. And I think he was the most believable part of Bolero. Like of everything that was like out of everything else, with the exception of a couple of minor things, like he was the only part of Bolero where I was like, okay, like that guy's trying his best. Can we just admit that guy, one guy, he's trying, he's working it. He's trying. Everybody else, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Kyle, what are your thoughts on the Razzies for 84?
My feeling is why didn't the internet exist in 1984 so all of the Razzie award ceremonies could be streamed for our enjoyment?
This is true. This is true. All right, guys, let's go ahead and wrap this up. This has been Time Warp 1984, December 40th anniversary, movies and pop culture. Let's go ahead and get some final thoughts here. So we always ask if there's a film you haven't seen in this December thing. Is there anyone that you would consider watching? I think the answer is no, maybe. Kyle?
I might check out Goldie Hawn Protocol just because I like Goldie Hawn, but otherwise,
okay.
Yeah, I've seen the ones I want to see, and the ones I don't want to see, I don't plan to revisit again. So,
Lacey.
I'm going to watch a pair of mustachioed gentlemen. I'm going to watch City Heat and Runaway.
Okay, I'd be curious to get your thoughts on this, specifically Runaway. So yeah,
lots of mustachioed gentlemen in this particular. You know, if you add Axel Foley and Johnny Dangerously into it, you got a lot of mustachioed folks in this month.
True. Yeah. This was an interesting month. It's got some really fun movies like Beverly Hills Cop, Johnny Dangerously, and Starman. And again, I want to remind you guys, please check out the Johnny Dangerously Couch Potato Theater. We had a lot of fun with that movie, and Lacey, Jennifer, and I absolutely adore that film. So make sure you check that out. All right, guys, this has been the movies in 1984. But guess what? Next year, and Kyle, this was your idea. I want you to take the stage here for a second. When we were looking at movies to do, obviously next year for us is 2025. I think we covered 1985, but we didn't do it in our YouTube era. And we always like to kind of cover anniversaries. But you found 1990. Why did you pick 1990?
I just wanted to do the 1990 version of Captain America that came out that year. I was trying to find a way to sneak it in. But no, if you look at the films of 1990, it is just a powerhouse stack. I mean, just to give you an idea, you got Predator 2, you've got Home Alone, you've got Quigley Down Under, Air America, you've got Edward Scissorhands, you've got another 48 Hour, Days of Thunder, Internal Affairs. You've got just so many films, and it's such an interesting time frame because you are kind of entering this changeover from the 80s into the 90s and into a new decade. So you've got sensibilities that are starting early in the decade, but still a lot of this 80s sensibilities because most of these films were filmed in 88 or 89. Come out in early 1990. And I mean, come on, we get to talk Tremors. That's really all
this is true. Yeah. And what I find more fascinating about this is that these are movies that came out in 1990, which means they were being filmed in 1989, some earlier, that finally did release. And so some of them kind of still feel 80s. So that might be a question I bring up quite a bit, guys, going forward is, does this film feel like it was filmed in the 80s or does it feel 90s?
Well, the other thing is if you look at if you're watching on the YouTube channel, you see the art. One of the films in the 1990 that we're going to talk about is Internal Affairs. And the reason why I love talking about that movie is because at that time, everybody was so in love with Richard Gere. And I would tell all these ladies, go watch Internal Affairs. Tell me what you think about him after you watch that.
Yes. And speaking of 1990, January, that we'll be covering, as you mentioned, Internal Affairs. One of the films that was filmed a lot earlier that had come out was Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. Downtown, Ski Patrol, Cinema Paradiso, Brain Dead, Streets, Tremors, Treasure Island, Bride of Reanimator, Dark Angel, also known as I Come in Peace, Zorro the TV series, and Miami Vice was ending its run in 1990 as well. So make sure you guys check that out. All right. This is Time Warp. We, of course, here on the Fandom Podcast Network, we are also on Blue Sky. Please subscribe to us here on the Fandom Podcast Network YouTube channel. Give us a like and subscribe, share us out. Our master feed for audio podcasts is fpnet.podbean.com. Fandom Podcast Network is also on Facebook. We're also on Instagram, X, and as I just said, we're at FPNet, or we're at FanPod Network at Blue Sky as well. My name is Kevin. You can find me on X, Instagram, Threads, Discord, Letterboxd at Spartan_Phoenix, and on Blue Sky, I am at Spartan Phoenix. Kyle, where can we find you?
You can find me on X at AKyleW. You can find me on Blue Sky at AKyleW. You can find me on Facebook, all over the place, as Kyle Wagner, or anywhere on the Fandom Podcast Network pages. You can also find me on Instagram and Threads at AKyleFandom.
And Lacey, where can we find you?
I am Lacey Pants at all the places, and my bug man is spraying right outside my window right now. That was really
Is that who you're waving to right now?
he just came in the back like with his little flashlight, little headlight. Oh my gosh. I knew he was coming. That scared the ding dang out of me. Okay. I am Lacey Pants on all the places with the exception of Instagram, where I am the Lacey Pants.
Awesome.
And don't forget Discord and Letterboxd.
Letterboxd, yes. Please support us with reviews on your podcast catchers, and also the TeePublic store. Please visit TeePublic and search for Fandom Podcast Network. We got a bunch of great T-shirts that cover all of our fun shows here on the Fandom Podcast Network. I'm wearing one of my favorites, the Time Warp T-shirt there. Make sure you check that out. Every time you buy one of those, we get a little kickback and help us keep the light on here in the Time Warp Studios. Guys, this has been 1984. Kyle, thank you so much for joining me this ride for 1984. Looking forward to doing 90.
I'm looking forward to doing 90, but since this is the month of December, Merry Christmas, and keep this Slimer slime out of your stockings. It gets real messy.
Lacey, I hope you enjoy the jump from 84 to 90.
It should be very exciting. I can't wait. It's going to be awesome.
All right, guys. Thank you so much again for joining us here for Time Warp. We will see you next month for 1990. And so have fun traveling with us. We don't have to travel far as back this time, but yes. Until next time, everyone, thank you so much for listening and watching here on YouTube. We will see you back in time.